like a celebration, and every day brings new memories. A home where milestones matter, such as birthdays, anniversaries, family dinners, and all the moments in between that make life special. At DTB, we understand that a home is not just an address. It's the place where you build your life. With an interest rate as low as 9% and up to 105% financing, own your dream home with DTB. Apply for your home loan today via email on mortgages@dtbafrica.com, call us on 0110 708 297 or 0110 629 015 or visit any of our branches for more details. DTB. Bank with us. Bank.
Don't wait for payday. So why should you? Picture this. You or a loved one falls sick. The hospital bill sky high. The stress overwhelming. But with Jubilee Health Insurance, you don't have to panic. Affordable health covers from just 200 shillings per month. Lipa pole pole. Get covered now. Pay in easy installments. Access to over 800 hospitals plus telemedicine and free drug delivery. SMS Health to 40643. Call 0709 949 000 or visit www.jubileeinsurance.com. Jubilee Health Insurance. Your health, your peace of mind.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential? Are you ready to take the future in your hands? If so, then listen up. KCB to Jejiri is the plan. It's designed to empower young people like you, develop skills and knowledge you need to succeed in life. KCB to Jejiri combines vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship, preparing youth for jobs, entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Don't be left out. Visit kcbgroup.com/foundation to learn more.
This new year, discover something new every day on your StarTimes decoder. Buy an aerial decoder plus 1 month free classic subscription at 1,399 shillings to enjoy the magic of African stories on ST Swahili, AMC Movies and ST Nollywood. Or a dish decoder plus 1 month free super bouquet subscription at 3,199 shillings only to watch heartwarming dramas that bring you closer on Novella E+, Remo TV Plus and Star Life. Experience the thrill of live sports on La Liga and Bundesliga on ST Sports Premium and ST World Football. Buy your StarTimes decoder today from our business halls countrywide. To renew your subscription today, dial *858# for self-service or call 0730 710077 for assistance. StarTimes. Enjoy digital life.
Good morning. At the end of the week, let's take a look at what the roads are looking like as you try to get in and out of the city, shall we? All right, coming off a thicker superhighway, we're not seeing too much clicking as you're getting towards Survey. We're likely to see that start to build up as we get into traffic hour proper. But for now, not too much of an issue. Mombasa Road looks good as it does coming off of Ngong Road for now. Langata Road is also free. Magadi Road is also starting to pile as we get past Multimedia University and you find your way out towards Langata Road and then into the city. Southern Bypass looks good as it is also coming off of Jogo Road heading towards Landis. That's not a problem. Kangunda Road in from Jiru, very busy this morning, and we'll see the Eastern Bypass with some busyness as well. We're going to keep you informed of what's going on and try to keep our things moving this Friday. Let's help each other and talk on SpiceFM. KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 SpiceFM.
Hello. Yes, I have to always check and say hello and see if there's anybody on the other end of it. It's Friday. It's the 14th of February and we are here. It's 11 minutes after 6 o'clock. Me, bright-eyed, cheery, bushy-tailed, boom. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning, Mark. I'm looking for the bushy tail, but yes, I am very well, sir.
I know what you're doing. And I'm going to pretend as though...
You're not going to mute my microphone and say this guy does not exist. Oh, by the happy Valentine's, fellas.
Happy Valentine's
I see
Day.
CT is in the Kamba Valentine because his shirt is yellow.
It's a beautiful mustard yellow, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And I've liked how you've paired it with the chocolate brown.
Oh, I would never have thought of doing that.
How do you say it, CT? Oh, yeah, this computer is doing things I don't even know. Anyway.
Yeah. So happy Valentine's.
Happy Valentine's, CT. I think you should sing us a love song. Do you know a love song? Do you know a love song?
Do I know of a love song?
Yes.
Or do I know a love song?
Do you know any love songs? I can sing it for you. What's wrong with this thing?
L is for the way you look at me.
Continue.
O is for the only one I see. And Asha is here.
Hiya.
V is very, very
Hi, Asha.
extraordinary.
Good morning. How are you?
Thank you very much, Asha.
Oh, look at that.
That I adore.
Oh, wow. Good morning.
Just don't say I don't know how to surprise you fellas.
Oh,
Courtesy of me and Lydiah. Yes.
oh, why, thank you so I like this kind of Valentine. I like this kind of Valentine. You know why? Say words.
Look at CT.
Say words.
He's counting. He's counting
his
money.
I'm counting the flowers.
Counting the flowers. Oh, this is amazing.
No,
Why,
but this is a fantastic thought. Thank you.
This is so
You're
nice.
most welcome.
Thank you so much. Happy Valentine. What? Oh, okay. I'm gonna make a go wrong cry.
No, this is something else actually. No, this is something else. Who came up with this idea?
Well, super producer and I talked after the show.
I like it very much. This monetary something is a really something.
No, this is a gift to remember. The thought that went behind this on this particular day. Even people like myself who don't necessarily celebrate the day, I am very appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Most welcome.
That's
most
amazing.
welcome.
Thank you so much. In the spirit of love, happy Valentine's Day to everybody. It'd be interesting to see who St. Valentine's was and actually what he came up with. Something morbid about his story, if I'm not wrong. But how about we not spoil it?
Well, not today. Let's wait for what's that thing for wearing masks? The holiday for wearing masks in the States.
Halloween.
Halloween. Yes.
Okay.
The funny thing, the way people wear masks. I like the way you put it.
I know. Yeah, so just in case you're wondering, St. Valentine was actually a man. And
Why was he canonized? Why is he a saint?
So, let me give you a little bit of the story. He was a 3rd century Roman saint. He was commemorated on the 14th in Eastern Orthodoxy. His last day, his feast day, has been associated with the tradition of courtly love. He's also the patron saint of epilepsy and beekeepers, just so you know, in case you're wondering. He was martyred and his body was buried on the Via Flaminia on the 14th of February, which has been observed as the feast of Saint Valentine, at least for the 8th century. So it really wasn't a thing. And so I'm asking myself if that's the day that he was found dead. Why then celebrate it on that day? Let me tell you why it is. Why is Saint Valentine associated with love? Numerous additions to the legend have related that he's associated with love primarily because of a belief that birds choose their mates on the 14th of February, the day of this feast, which was further popularized by poetry, linking the concept of choosing a partner with the idea of romantic love. Legends surrounding the saint also involve him with performing secret Christian weddings because at the time they were not allowed to, so he was unifying people, and on the day he was martyred happened to be the 14th of February. You know, so there's the morbidity of it. Now that's where we are. So yeah, happy Valentine's Day to everybody. L is for the way you look at me. O U is for the only one I see. V is very, very extraordinary. And E
is even more than anyone that I adore. When love was meant for you and me.
Sour Basi. Buy somebody a loaf of bread today or something. And let me tell you some of the conversations that we will be. Yeah, you know. They say if you want to show somebody that you really love them, feed them. Abi?
True that.
Said the guy, no, he eats ugali at 2 a.m.
A.M.
Yes.
Exactly. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the conversations that we'll be having today, shall we, guys? CT has a permanent smile on his face, so this is a good thing. We like it when you smile.
It's the ugali at 2 thing.
It's the ugali at 2.
It is epic.
Engineer Eric Muga is the Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. He will join us at 7 a.m. and we'll be looking at water access and irrigation in Kenya and what the government's strategies are and its solutions. We've been having agricultural conversations, livestock conversations, and we're saying, okay, well, one of those key components is water and the management and use of it. Where is Kenya? And we'll be having that conversation with him at 7 a.m. All right, and then at 8 a.m. we know that tomorrow is the 15th of February, the long-awaited date when the vote will take place for the chairmanship of the AUC. Ryla's prospects for AUC will be discussed with us by Honorable Ambino Abug, who is a South Sudanese diplomat and a parliamentarian. He'll join us at 8 o'clock and we'll be looking at those intrigues. And then we're going to wrap up today's conversation with our Healthy Friday conversation. Very apt. It is Matters of the Heart. Dr. David Githanga, who is a consultant pediatric cardiologist and a public health specialist with the Nairobi Hospital, will join us. And we'll be looking at those issues. Heartbreak, heart palpitation. Quite apt, I believe. So those are some of the conversations that we'll be having today. And we already thank you for joining us in the room this morning. Good morning, everybody. And karibuni sana. Okay, so we want to say hello to you. But as we do that, let me remind you, if you have 200 shillings a month, you can actually start to put it aside to make sure that you have access to healthcare at any time that you would need it. Why wait when that big emergency comes and knocks at your door, when a loved one or family member is, not to say that family members are not loved ones, but okay. But if you have a loved one and or a family member that then is sick and there's a huge medical emergency, you don't have to say, okay, so are we going to take a loan? Are we going to form a harambe? Yeah. What are we going to do? No. Jubilee Health Insurance says, you know what, guys? Start putting even 200 shillings aside and you start to pay that 200 bob. We'll give you access to the full medical cover that you need. In addition to that, you have access to over 800 hospitals around the country. You will have access to telemedicine where you can pick up the phone and tell the doctor, these are some of the symptoms I have. What can they do? Go. They'll also let you know that you can have free drug delivery once you make that call. They'll deliver it for free after you've paid for it, of course, and then also have access to forums on wellness and well-being and mental health and things like that. Jubilee Health Insurance says, you know what, you want to find out more about this? Send a text to 40643. That's 40643. Say health, or call 0709 949 000, or trot onto the website www.jubileeinsurance.com and get your health set up from today. Sawa. Deal? No deal?
Deal.
Very good. Now, let's say hello to everybody. This morning, we can see you guys all clicking in from the go. Is it me who cannot read or what's going on? Okay, here we go. Good. Can't find you guys. Okay, let's do it from here because the phone is not agreeing. Wow. Okay, everybody is online this morning. I'd rather read it from my phone. The thing has refused, but we're going to try. Just bear with me. Okay. Today is what day? Today is the 14th of February.
It's Friday.
Okay, it's Friday. Good morning, everybody. We can see you all clicking in. Thank you so much for joining us already. And starting us off very early this morning, he told us his name is Ramogi, we won't forget. He says he has reliable information that the man from Chwele, Bungoma County, one Mark Bichachi, never paid dowry. Imagine.
So how?
That today is Valentine, so you can, remedy that situation.
Just 1 second. Ramogi.
Wanataka ng'ombe zao.
Ramogi.
Yeah.
I have cows to people in Ramogi.
No, his name is Ramogi.
Yeah, but trust me.
You've paid the thing. Sawa basi. We don't doubt you. Dr. Venvic says, Happy Valentine's Day to you, my good people. Chamgay, my beautiful people. Angor. Did I tell you guys how I think Angor, the picture I have of Angor in my head is like a really regal, beautiful woman. And I'm sure you are, my sister. Brian Otieno says, greetings from Dubai. It's actually warmer. Kenya needs a Department of Government Efficiency since everything is in a shambles. You know, it's a good thing, but who would actually lead that department?
Who's our billionaire? Who's our Mike? Who's our...
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, yes.
Raim Tula Omar says, Happy Valentine's Day to Team Spice from Colchester in the UK. I always look forward to listening to your informative show. Long live the Situation Room. I celebrate you guys. Charles Mukinya, thank you so much for that. Happy Valentine's Day and good morning to you too, Agola. Joseph Mahinda says, good morning. Good morning, Spice team. Wishing you a happy Valentine's Day, says Masharia and Jeru. Spread love every day. Brian, I actually agree with you. We ought to spread love every single day. Okay, looking at some more greetings, and we're not going to leave anybody out this morning. Good morning, CT, Ndu, Mark, and all. Lydiah umesalimiwa kabisa kabisa. And kumbuka ya legend Mambo Mutela. Yes, we're able to pay some tribute to him. Je, hu ni ungwana? Brian says, where's chocolate? Don't worry, CT has got you. Ivan Omondi says, good morning. Love is blind. I'm blind, so that must make me love. What?
Yeah.
Sour. Okay. Good morning from Doha, Princess Ndu, Mark, and CT. What a beautiful day that the Lord has made. Indeed. All roads lead to Addis Ababa. It's coming home. Okay. We'll see. See you, Nikesho. Chris Morris says, good morning. It's a Friday. Yes, it is. Happy Valentine's Day to the love of my life, Mary and Jerry, says Dr. Peter. Okay. Mark, you are a gentleman. You are a gentleman.
Oh, thank
Indeed you are, says Ann Gore. Masharia says, you gave CT flowers. Yes. Douglas Kibogong says, at least Trump has ordered the release of US aid for health and humanitarian assistance. It had to click at some point. Good morning, guys. Happy Valentine's. It was CT's face for me when he got the flowers. I know it's really rare to see the man speechless, but that was fun. Kisa Daniel says, good morning. Let's pray for Baba. Okay. Pray for Baba.
Okay. Amen.
So, amen. Yeah. Bas. CT is giving the flowers a philosophical look. If you see what is inside the flower, it's because you didn't see what is inside the flower. That's why people are not understanding. Oh, Arthur Wanjama says, please ask Asha to return to the room. She has to grace us with her beauty this Valentine's, please. A happy Valentine's to her from me. Asha, they're looking for you. You beautiful women who are just working behind the scenes. Lydiah, Asha, you'll be the death of us. Can you see how people are stressing us now this morning? Good morning, crew. Desmond, good morning. Christina Chang says, good morning. The unseen. I'm telling you, the unseen people, they're very beautiful. The beautiful ones have been born. Bonjour de mille Colleen. Michael, we see you. Good morning. Mon vol vert Addis Abeba est retardé. Really? You think so? Nah, well, let's see what happens tomorrow.
What another
What is that? You can just speak to yourselves and then conclude for us.
Retardé. Okay.
To retain or to retard. Which one?
It's messed up, essentially. The result, I see that things are messed up in Addis. Mille Colleen is 1,000 hills. So yes. Michael Olande is in Kigali.
Okay.
So he's greeting you from 1,000 hills from Kigali. Follow me so far?
Yes.
Okay. Washi Okechi. However, if Waititu had been jailed, how about these two sycophants of Waluke, the May scandal? What happened to them? Our judiciary is tainted. Newton Ochanda says, good morning. Mark is a great addition. Go Team Spice. And go Baba. Go where?
Addis Ababa.
Hey. Me, it's how conclusions are arrived at.
Very fast.
Okay. Babayao, jailed. Waluke and company, not jailed. Our judiciary is
tainted.
How do you arrive at that conclusion?
Because it should be the same action through and through, no matter what.
But matters pertaining to Waluke, the matters are not over yet, are they?
No, they're not. They still have not exhausted all avenues of appeal.
Yes.
Let's wait and see. Where? There's so many people online. Can I get to everybody today?
Try.
Let me just go very fast.
This is Valentine.
It's Valentine. At least we should
tell them,
say
folks,
hi to people.
do not be perturbed. I will just mention your name.
Yeah.
Jimmy Wekesa, happy Valentine's to you. My take, Africa is a continent with so much potential. It is. Happy Ben says, it's my birthday, not just Valentine's Day. Imagine they're loving you and burning you on the same day. Happy birthday to you, Ben. Charles says it's cold. Simon Kibiru says, happy Valentine's Day to my one and only. People are loving yourselves, yeah. Abeid Abdallah says, good morning. Samuel Wanje is also tuned in. Ken Korir, we see you. Innocent Omoro, good morning. Marto says, good morning as well. Charles says, you guys make me miss home. When I listen to you guys, I realize journalism par excellence is happening. Well, that's great. Wishing you all let's see Lydiah today. Wish them all a happy Valentine's. Lydiah, they're asking to see you. We will make it happen. How much do people have? You don't just come and ask questions like that. Then we show you our people. Put something in the basket. Okay, good morning, everybody. We can see you, Mato and Gilbert Olo as well. Karibuni Sana, and good morning to everybody. All right, so we're looking into the headlines today, and we'll do that in just a minute after CT tells us the proverb from the Gambia for today.
Final proverb from the Republic of the Gambia. Final. Right. He who weeps in the morning knows what makes him weep.
It's the smile for me. He who
weeps in the morning knows what makes him weep.
He who weeps in the morning knows what. Yep. As opposed to weeping at night.
Well, as opposed to weeping just generally. But now if you weep in the morning, there is reason why you are weeping in the morning.
Okay.
Early in the morning.
Okay. If you weep in the morning, then okay. Those who weep in the morning know why they weep. Okay. Well,
I have no philosophical rebuttal.
Try.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think about times that I've cried like early in the morning, and it's really a heavy thing. There's a big reason behind it.
Yes, there is. There are people who've reported you go to sleep feeling goody good.
Yeah.
And you wake up in the morning and you find yourself crying, and you're wondering, what am I crying? What am I crying about?
Yeah.
What am I weeping about?
And you know, that's actually a good question, because those who faced depression have sadness they cannot explain, and yes, at that point you don't even know why you are sad. That weeping can be quite painful.
That's very true. Yeah. That is true. Okay, shall we look into the headlines? We're going to go through to top of the hour with this. On the front page of the Standard today, kick Wetangula out. From his public persona, no one can deny his gift of eloquence, which is coupled with a deep understanding of the law. The Speaker's latest ruling in Parliament has, however, not gone down well with the opposition and his law peers, who are now calling for his ouster. That still continues. It's a big story. We'll look into the details. Waititu pays the price for his corrupt ways. His sentencing did take place yesterday, and it was just interesting to see that we don't read when that ruling came out, or even listen, that the money that he's been asked to pay, and in default of otherwise then go to jail for a period of time, is actually twice the amount that he is said to have taken. Okay? But we'll look into details of that. True love put to the test in hard times. If he's sleeping on a mattress in a one room, will you love him anyway? Must you wait for him to go to the mansion? True love put to the test in hard times is what another story is. Burundi puts Kagame on attack notice, and they say, hey, my friend, don't come for us or we'll come for you, essentially, is what we're looking at here. Raila's date with the AU seat finally arrives. Tomorrow, heads of state will decide whether Raila Odinga becomes the continent's CEO, a decision that will reverberate across the country and essentially across the continent. KCSE charges proposals anger parents and MPs. They want to charge you to take the exam. We'll look into details of that. The Nation?
Well, in the Nation leads off with Raila, but saying how his election at the AUC, win or lose, will shape Kenyan politics as we know it going into the 2027 race. Also highlighting that he lost public support, at least, from the 16 SADC countries.
Because they're putting their support behind the Madagascar.
So losing Well, 16 in addition to others, or just 16 as a number?
Well, 16 as a number, because he had 28 supporting him. So minus 16, you're talking about 12 out of a possible 43 he needs.
Wait. So the 16 were people who had previously indicated they were supporting him.
Yes. Remember what we had a conversation about, and we talked about an endorsement is not an endorsement until it becomes the vote.
Yes.
Really,
But you see
it's an
also,
endorsement in word only.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a reminder that this is actually still a secret ballot. So the SADC bloc does not need to vote as a bloc. Yes, there is no repercussions for any president to vote outside the bloc.
The thing is that you will just, let's just look quickly at the headlines, but you will only know when you know.
Yes.
It ain't over till the fat lady sings.
Yes, absolutely. Now, Gachagua allies, you know Gachagua?
Oh, yes.
Yes, he is not the former deputy governor. He's the former deputy president. And he was, his allies in Senate were kicked out of key committees in Senate. Gavangwa being a key loser in that particular space, said that it is good to be free from those positions. Bang in the middle of the paper is out with roses and in with money bouquets. And there's a picture of a lovely lady there, John Mudeu, an actress, who received 150,000 shillings in cash as a bouquet. 150,000. Those are 150,000, right? Ferdinand Waititu, they are pictured, handcuffed. Is he? Yes. And he's on his way to be to serve his term, having been unable to actually raise the funds that are needed. Now, on page, this is page 6. There is a picture of the former Madagascan. Are they Malagasy, these ones?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, he's a Malagasy. And he's a former foreign minister, Richard James Randria Mandrato.
Gotta love those Madagascar names.
Oh, wow.
Those are compound names.
Telling you.
Randria Mandrato. Jesus Christo. Yes, so that is the guy giving Raila a run for his money. And now Ruto party skips Mount Kenya in new plan for grassroots polls. Yes, Mount Kenya no longer has grassroots.
Okay.
Yes. Now, on page 10, new Nakada report reveals drug abuse in varsities. 40% of them say they've used alcohol. And for the first time I've ever seen this, more have smoked cannabis than have smoked cigarettes. Yes. And then if you add the edibles, oh my goodness. So if you add edibles, that's 11.9. City, do you know what edibles are?
Things which can be eaten.
In relation to marijuana.
Yes. Or Mary Jane.
Have I answered the question wrongly?
No. We just curious.
So you want
edible marijuana.
You want me to be specific?
Yes, please.
I have been told they put them in biscuits,
Or cookies.
cake.
Yeah.
Yes, and some people even liquefy it. So some drinks are laced with it.
She's well informed.
Yes.
Well, after edibles, there's shisha. It is not shifsha, it's shisha. Right?
Or one is the other.
Yeah.
Something is on drugs.
You are not a nice person.
Sorry.
Ezeke Bundu.
Sorry.
Mira at 10.1. Mira at 10.1%. Muguka. I didn't know there was a difference between Mira and Muguka. 9.9%. Vape and e-cigarettes 8.6%. Hey, the way I see them in their hands all the time. All right. Inhalants. I have no idea what those are.
Okay.
5.5.
Snuff. Abi? Yep.
Okay.
Like tobacco.
Yes.
I remember there are people who actually sniff tobacco.
Yeah.
My grandfather did, yeah.
Yeah.
Then there are those who chew tobacco.
Yeah.
Yes. Then there are those who smoke tobacco.
Okay.
And then there are those who grow tobacco.
And there are those who ferment tobacco.
Oh, God. Okay.
Wow.
You're done.
The nicotine pouches snuff-chewed tobacco, Kuber, prescription drugs at 3%, codeine syrup at 2.1%, heroin at 1.8%, cocaine at 1.6%, ecstasy, GHB, LSD, and psychedelics at 1.5%, methamphetamine at 1.2%, and ketamine at 1%. Yes.
Who needs all these drugs when you've got love? CT? Headlines.
I've just heard you say that love is a drug.
A very powerful one. When you get it.
Potent.
It should be there, number one.
Let's look at the Business Daily. This is good news.
Okay.
Treasury raises domestic borrowing by 181 billion.
Good news for who?
That's great. It's lovely.
So for the banks.
Yeah, it's lovely. Where?
KRA cleared to claim 1.7 billion tax from Rift Valley Railway. Okay? They manage this service from 2006 to 2017. Okay? This is going to be interesting. There's a quote here, the equivalent of the top right-hand corner here. There's a quote by someone called Jaindi Kisero. He says, it is conceivable that West Kenya and Sarai can coexist peacefully and work together within the premises of Mumias. The Mumias being referred to, I believe, is a sugar factory.
Yes.
West Kenya is also a company.
Yes.
And Sarai maybe another company. Okay, so they are companies.
Yes.
All right. 4 Cusco ex-officials charged with fraud theft. You remember yesterday we said money had gone missing.
Yes.
Right? And Cusco had, it was a lot of money.
13.3
billion.
A lot of money. And there was mischief here, mischief there, criminal activity here, criminal activity there. Now 4 officials, ex-officials, have been charged, not just arrested, charged with fraud and theft. Fraud is bad. Fraud and theft, really bad. Okay? Okay. They've even mentioned, oh goodness gracious me. Okay. I am not going to read the names of these individuals. I will leave it there.
Okay.
All right.
Something else?
Chaos as US aid contracts grants in Kenya terminated. Yes. Several top NGOs have received notices stopping funding. Job losses, lawsuits loom over cancelled contracts. The ripple effect of this is profound.
Yes.
Wow.
If you worked for one such organization and the understanding was that it's a 5-year grant and it has now suddenly come to an end, picture someone working there and what happens. Think of a normal, regular Kenyan and the things that they do when they know they have a 5-year contract.
Yeah.
That suddenly comes, whoop, gone, done, dusted. But it doesn't stop there. We're talking about Kenyan NGOs. Remember, this money benefits Americans even more than it benefits us.
That's very true.
So, if it has been stopped here and it has been stopped in America, my friend, the ruckus this is going to cause. Ooh, and I've even mentioned ripple effect, just what it's going to cause. Right. The US government has begun issuing notices terminating contracts and grants to programs it funds through non-governmental organizations in Kenya, marking an escalation from an earlier directive by President Donald Trump freezing billions of dollars in overseas support for 90 days. This one I have to read. The U.S., the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, on Wednesday sent termination notices to several top NGOs it funds in Kenya, sparking chaos of job losses, potential lawsuits by service providers, landlords, and contractors who had been tapped by the organization.
The other would work, but okay.
My friend, these things are many, and the money is many.
Okay.
The money is many.
You're talking
Just
about
gone past much.
Yes, you're talking about 2-digit billions. Not good at all. Now the star, top right-hand corner, there is no teal green here. You have Siasa on the left. Majority-minority debate attests to weak governance. Does it really? Sasa, falling in love with Malaysia.
Where? Okay.
Bad boy.
Right.
It's actually a headline? Oh, okay. Voila. Okay. Oh, you're doing your own things.
No, I am reading.
Okay.
I'm just giving a little oomph.
Sour,
Yeah, right. Make or break as diplomatic intrigues play out in Raila. What make or break are these people talking about? Raila was going for another job. He already had a job here. Okay? So make or break what, if I may ask? WHAT. What? Yes. Right. Waititu jailed for 12 years in 588 million case. Now this jailing, I want to see how somebody commented, and it was a fair comment.
Yeah.
The Jamba called Luke. Yes, he was also jailed. Sindio? But he's not in jail. See, this is Kenya.
Yeah.
You can be jailed, but you're not in jail. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to see whether Baba Yao is actually going to be incarcerated, is the word.
Right.
Or whether this jail 12 year, he's going to be outside
with the rest
serving the 12-year jail term
We're going to look into that story just now.
Yes. About half of students in universities is always high. This is not a good story. Addiction and depression devastate universities. Why on earth would over 50% of students in universities want to be intoxicated? Why?
In order to get through the day.
So what are these horrible days that they require assistance to get through?
That's the bigger question.
Right.
All right. Are you happy?
That was bang in the middle of the paper.
Okay.
Right.
No, you need to say it.
Bang in the middle of the paper. Addiction and depression devastate universities.
Thank you very much.
About half of students in universities always high.
Okay. So now we're going to look into those stories in details, but I must tell you that, you know what? We need to spread the love, and we can do that today with Delamare. Indulge in the feeling of the great Delamare yogurt as well as in the feeling of love. Have your moments and enjoy and indulge in the of love. Great flavors from strawberry yogurt, which is what I'm having today with my breakfast on the go. You can have the wild berry, or you can have the lemon and biscuit, or the pear caramel. It's those great moments that we can indulge in with Delamare yogurt. And you can get them at very many outlets around the country. The feeling with Delamare. Now, let us look into another feeling. Yesterday, the court then said, after we have found you guilty, let us now do what? Let us sentence you. And now let's look into that. Many cries that, the sentencing was too lenient and that we are confused as to what it meant. Let's look into some of those details. In a dramatic fall from grace, okay, I don't know about that, but okay, former Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu, once hailed as a political giant, was sentenced to 12 years in prison by the Anti-Corruption Court for his role in a multi-million shilling fraud. Now, the court also barred Waititu, his wife Susan Wangari, and other co-convicts from holding public office for 10 years after they've been found guilty in a 588 million shilling graft case. Now, the sentencing marks him as the second former governor to be convicted of a criminal offence. Milimani Chief Magistrate Thomas Nzioki yesterday handed down the sentence that includes the option to pay a 53.7 million shilling fine. Now, people are asking, why? Because what he was found guilty of in the count was of receiving 25 point something million shillings. So in the judgment, the judge said, you know what, the magistrate said, what we are doing is that we are charging him twice the amount of money that he received from this deal. So the fine is twice the amount. Sawa.
But that one is in law.
It is in the law.
Yeah, it is in the law.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then what they're saying then, in default of this, you will now be a guest of the state for 7 years. Okay? Now, he was convicted on 4 counts of conflict of interest and dealing with public property. The cases revolved around kickbacks from a road construction contract awarded 5 years ago to Testimony Enterprises, a company that is linked to Waititu. The court detailed how Waititu received 25.6 million in kickbacks, with the judge imposing a fine of twice the amount as per the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, alongside other penalties for each charge. Now, once a well-established businessman and popular politician, Waititu's political journey now serves a stark reminder of how fortunes can change. Are those fortunes? He sentenced him on charges of conflict of interest, imposing a fine of 1 million shillings. So now for that charge, that was the fine, or a 2-year prison sentence in default of payment. You don't pay the 1 million, you stay with us for 2 years. He was also slapped with a mandatory fine of 51.2 million with a 7-year prison sentence in default. You don't pay us a 51 million, you then stay with us for 7 years. On 3 charges of dealing with suspect property, Waititu and his company, Saika 2 Estate Developers, were each charged 500,000 shillings or 1 year in prison for each charge. His wife was handed a 500,000 shilling fine or a 1 year prison sentence. So it's either or. You bring the money, you can't go home. You don't bring the money, you have to stay with us for some time. The cries from everybody is that, okay, fine, you caught a big fish in the corruption, you did this. But now essentially what we are seeing is that if all of these people collectively, then of course the other gentleman was fined 295 million shillings and in default of was going to spend 9 years in jail, who seems to have been the main conspirator behind all of this. But folks are saying, if all of you collectively were able to gather this 500 million, essentially what you're only being told to pay is a paltry amount, because you steal the money, you keep some of it aside and say, if the law will ever catch up with me, then I know that they'll give me either or. It's never a mandatory jail sentence. Never is. Or a singular mandatory jail sentence. It's always either or. That, okay, fine, bring some of the money that you stole, because that's what it is. Let's stop dancing around this thing that money was misappropriated or misplaced. No, you stole it. Okay? So bring some of that money that you stole, and then if you don't bring it, then you can be our guest. But you have the option of paying and then walking around free, and then some 10 short years you can't run for public office, but then after that you can do whatever the hell you want.
There's a little detail here. What you're asked to pay is what they can prove you took.
Yes.
We may have documentation of whatever billions lost, but if it can't be attached to you directly, then you will not be held responsible for paying.
Because they can't prove it.
And on top of that, remember, what they're proving is they're charging you twice, right? So if they can prove you took 40 million, you'll pay 80 million. The question is if you did take 40 million, where are you going to get the other 40 million to do it? But for me, the detail that jumps up at me, I can't stop thinking about it, is that the business is called testimony. The Lord's testimony. They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. The connection between criminality and saying ni God in this country is amazing.
But see, God
works in mysterious ways. These are the mysterious ways.
You know, the understanding that people will always get away with whatever misdeeds that they have imagined and contrived. This is good because you're now saying, no, that is actually not the case. You don't need 10 examples.
no.
One example is good.
Yeah.
Yes. We don't need 10 impeachments. One impeachment is good. It means we have understood the processes that can be followed and more are to come.
Yeah.
So still at your own peril.
And you never know. Let me tell you, even the people who steal chicken that we famously talk about, why do we take an example of the one who stole chicken and was jailed, and the other 10 who were not caught?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's not about big fish. It's about setting up a trend that if we take seriously enough, you should shudder in your boots before you steal money from the public.
But this is the thing that made up a lot of conversation, especially yesterday after the sentence was delivered, is that people said, you know what, come on. If 500 million shillings actually did disappear, and whatever collaborations, and this is the one that was found, just like you said, 1 gets caught, 10 get away.
Yeah.
So if this is one case where this individual was caught, what else happened? And so folks are saying that the leniency of this kind of a sentence is what people are staggered at.
Is it leniency really? What exactly does the law say is the punishment? Because this is punishment for such a misdeed. What does the law say? You see, that is a question you must ask if you want to have an honest conversation.
That if there's watertight evidence to show that you actually took a certain amount, according to the Crimes Act, we will charge you twice it, or what they see as a relevant jail term.
Yes. And the understanding about the return of the funds that are attached to you and the theft which was purported that you committed is this. There is pain in returning that money.
Yes.
Of course, you don't want to return it. That's why you took it in the first place.
Yes, there is pain. And the understanding of why should somebody keep money which were proceeds of a crime? Take the money.
Yeah.
Let them not have the money. Okay? So jail term may be hanging over your head. If you want stiff sentences for such crimes, you must understand there must be a law that supports it.
Yeah. And you know, it's quite, we must understand also that if you look at some of the monies that are missing, right? You must understand that if you tell some people to spend a year in jail and not have to pay back 10, 20 million,
they will
they'll
go to
spend
jail.
1 year in jail.
They will.
Yeah. And then with that 1 million, you just buy SMSs to tell us, Tuma kwa hii number.
You know, there's a guy, I still remember, in the days of something called junk bonds. It was called Carl Icahn. Okay? That man was charged, billions were rare, you didn't hear of billions.
Yeah.
But the fine for insider trading and doing the sort of things that he did, the fine was $500 million US.
My God.
Yes. But this guy, this is the reading that I had in those days, he had to put that 500 million aside.
That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
When he was stealing
Whatever he was
money,
doing,
yeah.
he put aside.
Yeah.
So he was ready to pay.
No, him. See, this is a sort of criminal that you must respect. Because
Well,
Guy played his cards properly.
no.
insider trading people
He
actually
knew he was doing wrong.
He knew he'd get caught one
He
day.
knew he'd get caught one day, and he prepared for it. But then he still went to jail.
even with his intelligence.
I still went to jail.
But it was relatively a short term.
Yes, it was. But he went to jail.
Yes.
You see?
So, and if you do that kind of crime in the United States of America land, you actually get to stay in a pretty comfy jail. You know that?
Yes.
Are you kidding? They get yogurts.
Yogurt.
For real. They too have their moments.
A country farm.
I'm telling you,
Yes.
chicken, sausages, such things. They get their yogurt in
They
jail.
even have play tennis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In jail.
In jail,
Yeah.
yes.
But what are we talking about? Those are some of the things that we hear, like when we talk about the ICC cases. If you have somebody who was of presidential status, for example, and if they should actually get jailed for whatever reason, look, it's like a 4-star hotel.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Absolutely. Coming from that, the Rome Statute actually states that in the event that somebody of a particular status then is convicted, is charged, convicted, sentenced to now be to serve scholarship at the behest of the ICC, they have to at some point maintain the level of living that they had when they were in that position.
It is assumed that when you are in court, you're not guilty as yet, isn't it?
Yes.
So you cannot receive the same treatment as somebody who has been found guilty.
No.
Is that not so?
No, but even after.
Apana, there's something wrong with that thing.
I'm telling
No, but
you, that's
you
why
see-
people have a
you see,
problem. Akina Milosevic and all of those, when they were sitting there, they 3, 4, 5 course meals.
Yeah, but
and they're inside.
the question you must ask yourself, CT, is what is the punishment being doled out?
Freedom is being denied.
Exactly.
So, but you can be denied freedom in a 5-star hotel.
Look at it this way.
What is wrong with prisoners swimming, for example, or having sausages?
So you used to eat sausage before?
You're asking me a question.
Yes.
I beg, tell us another story. Because this we are going. Please tell us another story. Because City wants to answer it
He
somehow.
wants to answer me with face. It seemed like, well, let's go to the story of depression, drug abuse in universities, right? Now, you know, City, I don't even want to go to the details of the story. You've got like 3 minutes. You know, there was a time in this country, and I was privileged to be at that time, when graduating university was full of hope. In fact, just getting into university was a thing that gave you surety of economic freedom, intellectual opportunities, career opportunities, and things like that. And for me, I finished my Form 4, and then Kibaki 1, and then I got very good grades. So throughout my campus life, we had a lot of hope, right? In fact, we never heard of depression or anyone feeling suicidal. Today, 1 in every 2 students you meet are either on drugs or are depressed. The fortunes for being in university has changed. In fact, when you send your child to university, there's more than a 50% chance that they will be introduced to some form of drug or the other.
But the interesting thing here, I mean, this is startling in terms of the numbers that we're talking about.
50%
is ridiculous.
Yes.
But then we also must realize that for a lot of these students who are arriving at university, they've come from somewhere. They most likely have come to university with these mental health issues.
Yes.
Because you don't just start drinking or taking drugs to the levels that we are seeing if you're okay.
Yeah.
No.
True.
So there's either a situation at home, there is a situation socially, there's something that's going on, and that when you come to school with the pressures of studying and everything else, it compounds it. And this is the problem with not dealing with the mental health issue in this country, because then you have younger and younger people who are then going to institutions of learning, who are going to organizations of work, who have already come with an extent of damage that can be handled, and it's not being handled. Emergency by definition means that it's a pressure situation now.
Yeah.
It's a pressure situation today. Something needs to be done about it when?
Yesterday.
Exactly. So now we are taking these, because how old are you when you're going to university? I was 17.
The 16,
Going to
17,
university
18
at 17, 18, right?
Yeah.
With mental health pressure. Then you go and somebody's offering you a blunt, or somebody's offering you a little bit more. Maybe you've already tasted. And then now you find it and you use it to cope. But you've already come semi-damaged.
Yeah.
So what are those issues, and we're not dealing with them? It's going to become something else.
But this is the generation where I was counting for a friend of mine. This was maybe 10 years ago. And their kid were in school the whole year. They'd break 1 week in April, 1 week in August, and break maybe for 4 weeks. So I told them, like, listen, you see your child literally for 7 weeks in a year. How are they your child? How is that person your child? How do you know who they are, or how they are becoming? I look at my kids. I go away for 2 weeks. I come back. They've grown. They've changed, and all of that. A lot of parental participation in training up these kids is not there. And then this is our generation, which now has kids between 10 to 25 around there, is the generation that actually trained kids by money. Just give them cash. Yeah,
and let them go deal on their own.
Yes,
because when you then have a 40-year-old woman, for example, who then decides that she's going to slit the throats of 4 of her children because they didn't have food to eat on a particular day, that is not a problem that started with being broke in your house in 2023. It is a problem that started a long time ago. And if we don't take this thing seriously, if we don't start to talk about serious mental health interventions, we're going to have a bigger problem on our hands than we can even begin to imagine. The issues surrounding people's mental health today need to be dealt with, and it needs to be taken seriously. Otherwise, we're going to have a bigger problem on our hands that we can actually deal with.
Yeah.
The folks who were tasked to find out their mental health situation in the country came back and said it is a state of emergency, and something needs to be done about it. We're dilly-dallying, pussyfooting, sitting on the edge of the crater, and the thing is about to erupt.
And the thing that we need to be very careful about is we've always thought that policing is the cure. Let me tell you, you cannot catch all of those dealers. Not in 1,000 years.
No, you can't.
You need to deal with the psychology of our young people and the depression that is out there, and they're using pharmaceutical grade medicines to do this. So, yeah.
The CS for Water, Irrigation and Sanitation will be in the hot seat. Good morning. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Adrian Lissamira. As Raila Odinga prepares to face his rivals in tomorrow's African Union Commission elections, the Southern African Development Community has written to all 16 member states seeking support for Madagascar's candidate. Raila, who's facing Madagascar's Richard Mandrato and Djibouti's Mohamed Ali Yusuf, is the only East African candidate. Africa's heads of state are scheduled to pick Moussa Faki's successor tomorrow and Sunday. The winning candidate must garner a 2/3 majority of the votes cast, translating to about 33 votes out of 48 AU member states eligible to vote. Meanwhile, National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has wished Raila success in the elections and highlighted their long-standing political journey since 1992. He's also thanked MPs who've travelled to Addis Ababa to support him.
So let's give some foot thumping to those who have bought their own tickets and gone to Addis Ababa. Addis Ababa is one of the very expensive cities in Africa. An average hotel is $400-500 a night, and those members who have sponsored themselves have done a patriotic duty. We wish our candidates success in the forthcoming elections. And for the record, the Honorable Raila Odinga and I came to this parliament for the first time on the same day.
Kenya is among countries staring at a condom shortage crisis days after the new US administration announced that it will be pulling out the health support that has sustained the country for years. This year's International Condom Day celebrations on Thursday missed the usual flare of condoms that are normally distributed for free as part of efforts to promote safer sex and contraception. Kenya is among countries that are heavily reliant on the United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, free condom distribution program. Meanwhile, stakeholders in the healthcare system have expressed concern over the government's commitment to continue offering holistic and accessible HIV, malaria and TB treatment services as the impacts of USAID funding cuts continue to be felt. They've noted that about 40,000 direct and indirect employees face an unsettling future after Donald Trump announced a funding freeze on USAID programs.
We know the impact of job losses, we know the impact of commodities we've lost, and we know the impact of interference and disruption that has resulted. We have not seen official government position commenting on this matter. And we have not seen the seriousness and the urgency on part of the government, because it is not enough to go and just assure persons who have HIV that there is enough stock of ARVs. Where there are job losses, you may have ARVs and there is nobody to dispense. So in as much as we are talking about a United States government's order, we are here also to talk to our government at the national and the county level to take the matter seriously and step in to address the gap, and also open dialogue with the US government on continuity of services.
It's February the 14th, and that means that it's Valentine's Day, a holiday when people express their affection with greetings and gifts. Our reporter Lynn Kolongei has been to Uasin Gishu County to find out how people there are marking the day.
Wanasema love is in the air. Umejipanga aje kwa siku ya Valentine's?
Mimi naitwa Benjamin Leting, mkaji wa kaunti ya Uasin Gishu. Mimi siwezi support mambo ya Valentine because I have my wife and I'm a married man, and also I love God. And God says it is we love Jesus as an everlasting life. So we need love which is permanent and long lasting. Hataki hii love ya kuenda saa hii ni kuvunja manyumba. Although this is our Sungu style. People who ambao wanataka kuendelea na love ya saa hii waendelee na mapenzi. Lakini sisi wengine tulikoma, sisi tunataka love ambayo inakaa one love. That's why unaona vijana saa hii wanapenda hii, napenda hii. To let us be realistic. Na kuwa na mwanamke mmoja.
Happy Valentine's Day. TikTok is again available on the US app stores of Apple and Google after President Donald Trump postponed enforcement of a ban of the Chinese-owned social media platform until the 5th of April. The popular app, which is used by more than 170 million American users, went dark briefly last month in the US as the ban deadline approached. Trump then signed an executive order granting TikTok a 75-day extension to comply with a law banning the app if it's not sold. The ban, which passed with a bipartisan vote in Congress, was signed into law by former President Joe Biden. It ordered TikTok's Chinese owner ByteDance to sell the US version of the platform to a neutral party to avert an outright ban. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
SpiceFM, Nakuru. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 SpiceFM, Nairobi.
Good morning at 6 minutes after 7 o'clock, and welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. And we continue with our live streaming on Facebook, on YouTube, and also on X this morning. Welcome to our audience on KTN. And as we continue with some conversations this morning, we are already getting into it. The Cabinet Secretary in the Water, Sanitation and Irrigation Ministry is our guest this hour. Engineer Eric Muga is here. Waziri, good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for inviting me to your show.
Well, we're very happy to have you here. And even as you do, we're going to bombard you with some information today. This gentleman has a name that sounds like yours. You're Muga, he's Muga. So you guys can decide. Do you want to remove one A so that you can be the same? Or would you like to add an A so that you can be the same? It's up to you. You can have that conversation at some point. But CT would like to tell you about mortgages that you can take in this country. Wow. And he'll tell you who is behind this magic.
You know, the problem that many people who want to own a home have is, how on earth do I actually get into a position where I can own a home? Now, a solution has been provided by Diamond Trust Bank. This is what they're saying. They're saying, look, we have partnered with Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. And because of this, we offer mortgages that can last up to 10 years or even 25 years. If you take a mortgage for 10 years, we will charge you 9% constant. If you take a mortgage for 25 years, now you see, I clearly cannot take a mortgage for 25 years.
Why? You think you will not live another 25
My friend.
years? What's wrong with you?
That might take me to the next century. Anyway. They'll charge you 9.75%. But it doesn't stop there. They're saying we don't have hidden charges. Anything we tell you is it. It's upfront, it is it. If you pay in advance of the scheduled payment, we will not penalize you. And they say, if you have a job, you have a salary. If you happen to be in business, if you happen to be in the diaspora, we will still consider your application. But if you're salaried, they're saying we'll offer you a loan of up to 105%. If you're in the diaspora, they're saying we'll offer you a loan of up to 80%. Now, if you want to determine and verify that what I'm saying is true, they're also saying, look, do two things. One, either visit any Diamond Trust Bank branch or email us at mortgages@dtbafrica.com. That's it.
Good stuff.
That's it.
Easy, Waziri.
Here?
Easy.
Yeah. Sounds very sweet.
Yes, it is.
Start with.
Yes, it does.
And another morsel of sweetness that CT has every week, don't ask us how, just accept that it happens. CT goes to a different African country and he brings back a basket of proverbs. He's been in a very interesting country this week. He'll tell you what the proverb is and then you can tell us how you would interpret that proverb. See, we're putting you to work even before we get started. Fair enough?
Wow, it's been a while since I thought that hard.
Okay, well,
But I'm all ears.
No. Waziri here is being modest. You cannot be a Waziri and not think hard on a daily basis. Yes, but
nevertheless.
Yes. Our proverbs for the whole of this week ending today are from the Gambia, otherwise known as the Republic of the Gambia. Okay? This country has a population of around 2.8 million people. Okay? They're not that many. But then the country is not that big anyway.
No, it's not.
Okay? But it has an interesting government. It's what you call a unitary presidential republic. Okay? They have a president, they have a vice president, and then they have a speaker, and they have a chief justice, and they have a national assembly. Okay? Right. The proverb. He who weeps in the morning knows what makes him weep. He who weeps in the morning knows what makes him weep.
What do you think of that, Waziri?
To weep on a daily basis in the morning. First of all, it means it's a routine.
Yes.
So there must be a reason as to why this guy has adopted that routine. It could be, in my opinion, because this is in my opinion.
It's your opinion we want.
Could be. It must have a beneficial effect to him. Because weeping on a daily basis, unless you It's very interesting. Come to think of it, these Gambians are trying to juggle our minds very early in the morning.
But you're on the right track. You see, the thing about your opinion, Banwaziri, you can't be wrong.
I said it's my opinion.
Yes, and we agree with you completely. And you're right. Whoever weeps in the morning must have a very good reason why they're weeping.
Yeah. It must have a benefit somewhere in the math. Maybe if he doesn't weep, his eyes are cloudy. How do you know?
It's I see that. Yeah, must be a good reason. Maybe you want to clear something up as you start the day.
Yeah,
that's why you're okay. Engineering is coming out here. Doesn't
a solution is being found.
Absolutely.
This is literature. This is not engineering.
Well, I mean, you want to think about solutions. Solutions.
Yeah,
solutions. Interesting that we're talking about water access this morning
and
irrigation in Kenya, strategies and solutions towards making some of these things happen. And very happy that you're here with us this morning, Waziri, to go through some of these matters. Giving an overall picture of, the challenges that Kenya has in terms of adequate water supply, making sure that there's a preservation of those resources, and ensuring that, number one, clean water is available, and sanitation, the whole wash sector is essentially taken care of. We'd like to get, even as we start, an overview from you of, what the situation is. And then before we get into some of the interventions that are being taken and implemented to ensure that some of these things actually happen.
Thank you very much.
Very well done.
It's an interesting name.
Thank you.
But on matters of water and sanitation, I will paint a picture of where we are as we speak. We are at 73% water connectivity as a country. And this also includes the unregulated areas in the country. Remember, we have water regulation. On matter sanitation is very broad because there is sanitation coverage, and this will comprise of sanitation facilities, safe and hygienic handling of human waste, and management of wastewater. Generally, when you talk about overall sanitation coverage, we are at about 92-93% because we still have some sections in this country that we still have open defecation. And you cannot clarify that as proper sanitation. Now, in this sanitation, there's a breakdown because there is what we call safely managed sanitation. And I know this is a conversation that needs to be held because whenever we talk of safely managed sanitation, we are talking of at least a facility that has a basic sanitation facility and a hand washing facility that has soap and water, and which is not shared with other households. So it means if your facility has soap, water, but it is also shared, it is not classified as safely managed sanitation.
If it's not shared by whom?
Other households.
Other households.
Okay.
But now we have what we call seaward sanitation coverage. This is where we have centralized. It is a subset of what I've called safely managed sanitation because now we have centralized centralized facilities that are actually interconnected with what we call flush or pour with water, and that one is now taken to a safely managed site like a treatment plant or an on-site sanitation facility. Maybe my namesake here without an A.
Your namesake without an A.
With a single A. As one of those. Maybe as a septic tank to his home. If you're not...
Rural.
If you're not, then you're in town and you're in the seaward network. The lucky few, only 16% have access to that, whereby we have a system of trunks, primary, secondary and tertiary, that go to a treatment plant, for example in Nairobi, Ruai, for treatment.
We're going to ask you to explain to us what you mean by treatment. But before we get there, let me ask this question. When we talk about sanitation, we hardly ever talk about sanitation.
That's another problem.
And we're glad you're here Because when one sees all manner of buildings coming up, I live in an area where once upon a time, one hardly saw any flats. Then you started seeing townhouses. Now we are seeing buildings that are towering over where you're looking, wondering, okay. When we talk of our planning with sanitation in mind, how exactly does the planning cater for these we're seeing them rapidly developing developments? And what is it that is actually done to cater for what is planned for in advance?
Very good question. Initially, and allow me to give you a historical background on sanitation, is that this country, we focus too much on access to water. And in a way, skipped our minds that the amount of water we consume on a daily basis, 80%, 70 to 80% of that must come out as wastewater. Now, because of population increase and population pressure and accommodation in the country, we find ourselves in towns with rapidly expanding systems and networks, and with pressures of people all over. Now, the buildings you're talking about, multi-story, that you're looking up on a daily basis coming up, is to accommodate this population expansion and growth. Now, as these buildings come up, we are also supposed to be working in parallel to ensure that our sanitation facilities, such as trunk sewers, these are the DN 500, meaning big diameter pipes, are available to handle this waste, or also in the same plots where we have these high-rise buildings, we are supposed to be working to ensure we have what we call on-site sanitation facilities. What do I mean? I mean, because of the pressures our old treatment plants are having to handle the ever-increasing supply of waste, now we are also encouraging people to have what we call on-site, meaning that that waste is treated within the location by either having proper septic tanks, having other modern treatment facilities, but that are done on-site. And once this is properly treated, or partially almost to the final residue that we need, we can expose to our ecosystems, this can be taken now to the environment. That is very safe. Now, the challenge with that is now there is need for interministerial planning systems, because when these structures come up, that planning is under the Department of Planning, mostly in our county governments, because of the Constitution 2010, where we became a devolved nation. But we think we need people with that foresight to ensure that these structures just don't come up. Otherwise, when it rains in most towns, you realize because of that pressure in our old trunk sewers, which are now overutilized, you see manholes popping all over.
They do.
Human untreated waste.
With what you call raw.
I'm trying to be very diplomatic and modest on these statements. Flushing on top of our manholes and pouring into our drains. And that is a big challenge. So our county departments of planning, because this service sanitation is a devolved function also. It means we share the mandate between the national government and the county government. There has to be an interdepartmental criteria so that as counties approve these high-rise structures, the checks are there that are commensurate to check and ensure there is adequacy of the sanitation facilities available to handle that, which that will accompany that.
What would need to happen for that departmental essential coming together? Because it seems it's been so long that has not been happening. And then sadly and unfortunately, we have then the situations that cause challenges that you speak of. So what needs to happen? It seems like people just need to have a conversation with each other and we get the thing moving. Why would it be posing such a big challenge?
It's not a big challenge if you look at it, if we are open-minded, because this is the situation room. We are here to dissect and discuss, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yes,
Very
for sure. Absolutely.
If we stick to our planning, because urban centers have zoning and planning maps, correct?
Yes,
land use maps, we call them. If we stick to those land use maps and adhere to the master plans of towns that are meant, areas that are meant for maybe for industrial region, stick to become industrial, residential, stick to become residential. If we stick to that, because when these facilities were designed, when an engineer does a design for a trunk sewer, he is looking at 30, 40 years to come. And he is not designing at the current population. If where you live, you are 1,000 people, we project population in the last 3 decades, because we are looking at census 1979, 1989, 1999, and now we have census up to 2019. We draw a correlation in those 5 intercensual periods and predict and project. It's not 100% accurate, but because of that historical numbers, you can come up with a correlation and look at in the next 20, 30 years, with modernization, with now different lifestyles that are affecting the world, what population are we expecting to have in the next 20, 30 years? And that is what our systems are designed for. Unfortunately, some of our systems that were designed in the year maybe 1990s, their design period and capacity, because now in the year 2025, are almost being exhausted. If it was designed 1990, for 30 years, how many years are we now? 35.
Yeah, 35. Yes. You've got 5 years to go. And then the question is, are there plans for expansion? Are there plans for, redesign for another 30 years?
Definitely.
And how do you see that actually coming out?
These cycles of design are cyclic, whereby now we are supposed to start investing as we are. Like you have heard of the Nairobi Rivers sewerage improvement project. Do not confuse that with the Nairobi Rivers restoration program that is under the Ministry of Lands. This is where, because of the pressures in Nairobi, we have embarked on doing trunk sewers on Nairobi Rivers, that is Madare, Nairobi River, all the way to Juja, all the rivers around there, to clean our rivers. And one of our activities, this program I think started in the year 2012, phase 1, that ended in the year 2017. Then we realized we have built so many trunks, but these trunks don't have the tertiary lines that actually connect to the trunks, because trunks are designed for the next 30, 40 years. Now in the process of doing what we call phase 2, which actually does the secondary. These are the small ones that come to your home, and then the tertiary. The secondaries come to your streets, but the tertiary actually comes to your plot to actually utilize now those resources. But the challenge is the cost of connecting your house or your plot to the next manhole, which is within your road, your feeder road, to the trunk. It is not cheap.
Yes, there are a few questions where people say that when you say 73%, some of them in urban areas say they've never seen water in their taps. And then there's a question also of the quality of the water that comes in. We buy a lot of bottled water. Should Nairobians, for example, be able to drink straight from the tap and save on other water costs? I think those are some of the most basic urban questions that are there.
Yeah. Water, provision of water is enshrined in our constitution, right? Article 43, whereby the government is supposed to provide clean, and not only clean, but adequate water to the citizens, to the people.
Yes.
Now, as a ministry, because water is a devolved function, as I said earlier, we are involved in development of the bulk systems.
Yes.
The actual service provision, which we also support because sometimes counties don't have the capacity, is mandated under the county government. But on matters treatment, like for example, you talked of Nairobi. I'll give you an example of Nairobi. Nairobi gets its water from different sources. We have Karimenu, we have the NCT that actually just completed the other day, that is Ndakaini. And before all that water is pumped, I think 60 kilometers from Ndakaini to Gigiri tanks here in Kiambu, because now that water is being shared amongst 5 counties. It goes through what we call water treatment.
Yes.
Please follow me through. Because when that water now hits the county governments, whereby now we have the small taps, the small pipes, the transmission means are bulk water supplies, inter-county travels. So you bring with a big pipe, DN 500, that is such a big pipe, almost half a meter pipe. When this water hits Gigiri tanks, we call them terminal reservoirs, it is transmitted either to Embakasi or to Kabete tanks. And now, the county government starts supplying this water through what we call primary and secondary pipelines. And finally, a small line, 2-inch, 1-inch, comes to a homestay. But that water from the treatment plant that was done is supposed to be safe and actually very hygienic for you to drink from the tap.
Okay.
But because of, along the way, we have people who are trying to interfere with this provision. We call it water theft, which accounts for what we call non-revenue water. People are puncturing pipes and haphazardly without plan. We have leakages that are not getting repaired. And all manner of people trying to cut corners. So there is also a possibility, of once in a while the water coming into contact maybe with earth, changa, along the process.
Yes.
But for sure, when that water leaves our treatment plants, is supposed to be safe to drink, because we actually have labs.
Yes.
And what we have, we know the KEBS and the World Health Organization requirements for potable water.
So if there was no interference along the way, essentially what you're saying is that people should be able to open their taps and drink the water out of it.
Definitely.
So then there's a secondary problem where the water doesn't get to some of these taps anyway. That there are very many estates in Nairobi, and we're just using Nairobi as an example because there are other parts of the country where this is yet to reach. So of this 73% that you speak of, CS, there's some estates notorious in Nairobi for not having water for 2 decades, 3 decades. There are people who've grown up and are now working with their own families, who've grown up in these estates and are yet to have been able to open a tap and water flows from it. They are in the business of water bowsers, which is another thing, that the people that you talk about interference are those people who interfere, put the water in the tank and then come and sell it to these very estates again.
Yeah.
So that's another big issue.
Yeah.
That could be why, the water doesn't get to the taps, and how is that being taken care of?
Now, the Nairobi demand, as we speak, is between 900,000 to 1 million meter cubic per day.
Okay.
Meter cubic.
That's a lot of water.
As we speak, upon commissioning of the Northern Collector Tunnel, we have a deficit in Nairobi of around 250,000 meter cubic. So that answers your first question on some estates not having water. It means our demand it's like business is more than what we can supply as we speak. Because of modern urbanization, people have moved to towns, estates are mushrooming all over, and there's that pressure for the ministry to keep up with the demand. That is the first answer to your question. Mm-hmm. The second question was, what are we doing about the water we are losing? Apparently, our non-revenue water, this is the water that is abstracted from our catchments, our rivers, our streams, etc. We lose 43% of that water because it does not contribute revenue to our water companies, which are under the county government. And that is what we call non-revenue water. Water has been abstracted from the stream. It has been treated, literally, chemicals, etc. has been put into this water, but it does not contribute to the revenue income of the water service provider, the company, which are under county governments. The question is, where does this water go? Mm-hmm. One, you talked of theft, a serious, notorious problem. And I think we need to have a conversation as Kenyans, a serious conversation about that. Secondly, we have leakages. You see, pipes are buried. If there's an issue with that pipe and the leakage is small, no matter how small, that might take time for you to notice that leak from the surface, and that contributes to that loss. We have leaking taps along the way. We have what we call illegal connections, part of water theft in the process. We have people who have done their own connections to actually feed the boozers he's talking about and sell the water.
To the same people who should be getting it in their taps.
And that does not contribute to the revenue income of the water company. And this is rampant all over Kenya. So we did a study last year, and last year but one, that with losing 43% of abstracted water in the non-revenue water, the country, our water service providers, the companies, lose to a tune of 10 billion annually. That becomes a cascading problem, because with companies struggling, they are always at the mercy of the county governments. They cannot break even. That is one. Because now they have operations and maintenance departments. They need to expand their infrastructure, old, some of them dilapidated. And it requires improvement. But because the revenue is limited that they are collecting, and they have lost 43% of that, they cannot even break even.
I want to take a break at this point. Mark, we'll just come back with your question right after that. The Cabinet Secretary for Water, Irrigation and Sanitation, Engineer Eric Muga, is our guest this hour, and we're looking at, all right, the whole situation. We'll look at water, we'll look at sanitation, we'll look at irrigation, which is a big issue as well, and we'll come back after this with that question, Mark. Folks have been asking about Verto FX. Verto FX is that platform which allows businesses to be able to make payments, to be able to access liquidity, to be able to make sure that you can continue with the flow of your business from one point to the next. 190 plus countries, 49 different currencies, and how you can make that payment from one place to the next. How you can ensure that your business flow is seamless without too many transaction charges, with affordable fees and with no hidden charges, and realization of your monies paid for your business to continue in absolute minutes. You can go on to www.vertofx.com, find out more information from there about how you can make sure your business is actually working well with a payment platform that ensures that there's no extra cost or no hidden charges. vertofx.com.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. We will see highs of 27 as the sun comes up later through Friday. And we'll see highs of 29 and lows of 12 in a sunny Nakuru. It's 11 degrees in Nyeri and 12 degrees in a sunny Eldoret. 26 and cloudy in Mombasa and 26 and partly sunny in Malindi. It's 20 and sunny in Kisumu with 18 and sunny conditions in Kakamega. Mostly cloudy at 21 in Kampala, going to highs of 29, while Dar es Salaam at 25 is sunny. We'll see highs of 32, 19 and cloudy in Johannesburg with highs of 25, while we're looking into a sunny Mogadishu at 26. It's 12 degrees and sunny. Is that a sign in Addis Ababa? Highs of 25. Lagos is clear at 27, and at 23 it's clear in Kinshasa.
Spice up your life.
Busy on Langata Road as you get towards the city this morning, and we're looking at clear southern bypass on the Thika Superhighway. It's busy as you come past Garden City out towards Survey, and a little bit of traffic on Kiambu Road as well as Limuru Road climbing into the city this morning. Southern bypass looks good, but there's traffic on Magadi Road. It's going to join with the traffic that's coming in from Langata Road and finding its way towards the CBD this morning. We are clicking on traffic hour at a few minutes towards 8 o'clock. Let's see what happens as we get through Friday morning, and let's keep talking and moving things. SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the situation room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
And the Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation, Engineer Eric Muga, is our guest this hour.
Buenos dias. There's institutions such as the Water Resources Authority and many others, some of which you're merging, that are charged with actually making sure that these resources are well utilized and the quality is up to scratch. Some of them have had issues that you are dealing with. Some of them have had a CEO, for example, who's been in office for far longer than is allowed by law. Other things that are happening. Are these institutions enabling you to do the work, or do you need to overhaul them so that they're able to do the work that they are mandated by law to do? Because there's issues, and we're going to go into irrigation for a bit, and then you'll update us on Galana Kulalu as well. But are these institutions being able to assist your office to do what is supposed to be done?
Thank you for that, because you are talking about institutional reforms.
Yes.
There was a feeling during the height of Gen Z protest that the government is bloated. And I think His Excellency the President made a commitment to try and lean the government, if that is a word to use. And you saw the other day there was a discussion in cabinet whereby it was agreed that some of these institutions can be merged, not because they are not doing their mandates, but because we have every institution as a CEO, it has a board, etc. And there is need for us to minimize that recurrent expenditure, so that we spend more on development as a nation. Leaning out these institutions does not demystify or does not take out their mandate, because there will be a framework on how this core mandate will be maintained as these institutions are being joined, per se, if I can use that word.
Yeah.
Merged, yeah.
These institutions and the staff carry out daily activities that actually move the cog of development in this nation. And the mandate will still be there, whether the institution is the same or under a different brand name. Only that we are trying to lean out the recurrent expenditure to spend more on development, which is the actual way we bring services to the people.
So if the situation is the same, CS, then what's the point of merging these two organizations?
Because now when you merge them, you minimize the board members.
Okay.
you minimize the
So the
number of
headcount is
CEOs.
lower.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take away from the challenge that you face, because what are we looking at now? A direct merger between the National Water and National Irrigation Authority, who essentially would appear as though they have different mandates, but we're saying bring them together and let them both work. Let them both work on the same mandates for water. We're talking about provision, supply, management, and irrigation, whether we're talking about agriculture at whatever level. So we're saying that collapse them into one, but does it take away from the implementation of certain mechanisms that would ensure the challenges that have been realized previously would still be sorted out? Does it change in the implementation?
Please, to clarify, it does not mean that these institutions are not doing their mandate as we speak. It means that they are being controlled by two different, maybe boards, different levels of CEOs, leadership, etc. To lean this in is because, for example, the institution on water harvesting, etc., is mandated to harvest the water. And I've said not once, not twice, that in this country we don't have a challenge with water. We have a challenge with storage. Because when it rains, the other month, you see the flooding in Nairobi. All that water, as we speak, is either in Indian Ocean or in our inland, internal lakes. And in the next few months, by March, we shall all be wailing that we don't have enough water, which is a problem. The ministry will be mandated to even help in some places with provision of water.
Now, Waziri, I have to ask this question even as you continue.
Yes.
Once upon a time, the entities that we are now merging were not separate entities. It was one. There was logic that mitigated and brought about these separations. Yes, in the interest of trying not to duplicate whatever it is that we are doing, are we saying that the discussion around having these separate bodies, because there was logic behind it, are we saying that that logic has outlived its usefulness and that the merger now will provide better services and a better way of managing our water resources?
Look at it this way. We can't have irrigation without water.
Yes.
Is it possible?
No, it's not possible.
So for us to have irrigation and water, what is wrong with these people working together as a team, whereby once we develop the infrastructure, better communication in the same area, because once we develop the infrastructure, in the process of developing the infrastructure, there is inter-agency consultation. There is within intra-consultation to develop our lands for irrigation. It does not mean that the mandate on water storage and the actual irrigation will not happen anymore. We need to clarify to Kenyans and get it very correct that this is about establishing a new, more efficient system, because the ones we have been tested for a while, and we keep evolving also as a nation.
But Waziri, I'm actually in agreement with you, because it's something I saw and experienced.
Yes.
It's something called Kenya Ports Authority and cargo handling.
Yes.
The cargo that you're handling is at the port.
Yes.
Okay? It was once upon a time a unit. In fact, before that, it was even East African Harbours and Railways.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
That is very a while, eh?
Yes, it was. I'm going somewhere with this. And then the government of the time employed some people who are experts to come and advise. And they said, you know something? It is good that these units separate so that cargo is handled differently. It has its own management, etc. And Kenya Ports Authority has the same. Yes. Some years later, another group came and the government had to look at this thing and advise, and again they merged. Now, cargo is at the port. So why don't you just manage the cargo within the unit of this? You see, the railways that I spoke of earlier on were used for ferrying whatever you had. Yes. So I'm simply saying
efficiency.
Yes.
Efficiency. That is the term.
That is the point. What is it that gives us the best way in which we can efficiently manage the resource?
I personally think that the Ministry of Water has so many departments that should honestly be, because when you look at the Water Authority, right? You look at irrigation boards, etc. You look at the county level, water development, whatevers. There are so many institutions that could be run more efficiently if they were merged. On that we agree. Now to my main question. Galanu Kulalu, the
Galana
Kulalu. Yes.
Or is there another one called Galanu?
You know, it's Valentine's Day. You must be very clear whose name you are mentioning. So, Galana Kulalu, elephant in the room, simply because what has happened, what's the update? We know the Israeli had made a complaint before. We know that there is interest from the UAE coming in. There is also interest in our northern spaces in terms of creating irrigation. How soon can we actually, as Kenyans, see the dividend of these labors of ours?
I think the conversation on Galana Kulalu started, I think, around the year 2015 or somewhere there.
Even later, before that, yes.
I'm coming to that point.
Yes.
Because why irrigation first? Our climate situation has been changing. The rain patterns Muga experienced during his time,
these ones are unpredictable.
and the rain seasons we're experiencing today are two different
They're
things.
completely unpredictable.
Yes.
The population has increased, and we need to feed the population.
Factually.
And therefore, there is need to stop relying on trade-fed agriculture for sustenance as a nation. Otherwise, we shall keep importing basic food products from abroad, which now impacts economically from the economics people on our foreign exchange situation. Specifically to your question, if you go to Galana Kulalu, Galana is in Tana River County.
Yes.
Kulalu is in Kilifi County. The combined land in that area is more than 1.75 million acres of land idle and being used for small activities here and there. Meaning that we don't have a lot of productivity from that land. Now, I said there can't be irrigation without water. For us to maximally utilize this water, the river Sabaki, or other river in Nairobi, or what you call it, because it changes names as we traverse the country,
Along and head towards the Indian Ocean.
needs to have what we call a dam.
Yes.
The Galana Dam. The Galana Dam, I think you have, if you have not built dams before, will cost us the Galana Dam and the canal, because there has to be a dam and there has to be a conveyance system to take this water to the farms,
scheme.
to the scheme, will cost us around 33 billion Kenya shillings. The situation now, my friend here is talking about, is that we already have a small dam, which is very small, can only sustain not more than 7,000 acres of land. And that's why there is a partnership between Selu and Aldara company, which you're calling now the UAE interest.
Yes.
First of all, to help us build the dam, because we can't build a dam. As we look for funding to build a dam, there must be what we call an off-taker guarantee that this water will not be idle. Whoever builds this dam shall not build a dam in vain. There has to be a guarantee that the water will be utilized. And that is why you saw us sign an MOU,
Yes.
which is a memorandum of understanding with Aldara, which is a UAE company, to utilize 180,000 acres. The MOU is not a contract, it's an MOU.
But MOUs are not binding.
So, So,
Let me get there. MOU is not binding. They give them leeway to actually start the soil profiling, as we already cultivate the 5,000 acres, which will begin in April this year. The first farm based on the small water supply we have already.
Yes.
For a company to invest to a tune of 1 or 5 billion in our area, because that is the portfolio they have put forward to invest in, they need to be sure that even the soils we have in that region for 200 acres, which is like 200 out of 1.7 million acres, is like 10-15% of the land, that the soil can support growth of crops, can support different varieties. We have a problem with feedlot, etc. Those are some of the conversations we are having. First of all, because this land being idle is not contributing to our food security, because Galana Kulalu is a food security project agenda for the nation.
Yes.
I have to ask though.
Yeah.
Because Galana Kulalu, for example, was already at some point paid for, one. Number two, it was already producing in terms of that there were some already bags of they were talking about produce that was already coming from the scheme.
Correct.
When the Israelis left, they said very clearly, we cannot do this anymore because of what we see. How are we sure that now coming into yet another agreement with this new organization, who for some reason is still doing a feasibility study about whether the soil will be able to take off some of this produce? I don't understand. It seems like we are going back instead of going forward. Why are we doing a feasibility study now to see if the soil can actually produce the kind of produce that you need if it had already been doing it before?
Let me explain. First, Twiga Foods, you know Twiga Foods?
Yes.
Was the one that was doing that job. And they did trials on 538 acres of land in that region. 538, small portion compared to 1.7 million acres of land. They were able to produce an average of 35 bags of maize per acre. Correct? Now, Twiga came into agreement with Selu. Selu went through the PPP directorate, public-private partnership, and they were cleared last year, I think October or November, to engage in 20,000 acres, and that production is beginning as early as April this year. Now, because the small area they are doing can only be supported, less than 7,000 acres can only be supported with the existing water supply. We need to do the dam I talked about to give us 1 billion meter cubic of water to
essentially
support.
To increase.
Yes.
Okay.
To expand, because we are trying. It's a food security thing.
Yeah.
You farm small, you don't break even.
Can I jump in and ask you then?
Yes,
because I know we could spend a lot of time on Galana because there are so many things that are happening at the same time. There are very many moving parts to bring this scheme together.
Yes.
But then if you look at other parts of the country where there are smaller schemes that would take into account what would be done for irrigation, again, going back to the fact that, economy based on agriculture, irrigation then paramount to having some of these things happen. There are smaller schemes that have not been completed, yes. And so we have to ask, for example, what's happening with the Kimira in Homa Bay? What's happening with the Molo Sirwe in Baringo that have not been completed that essentially could be sorting out food security issues on that side of the country?
Good answer. As I said, the advantage with Galana Kulalu is land, this availability of land and mechanized farming. Because once you attract a proponent like Aldara, if you go to Egypt, they have transformed a desert into a food production system, whereby it took them 10 years because we sent a team from the ministry to do due diligence. It took 10 years for them to break even. So if it's small farming, they are not part of that. And attracting a proponent, you see now, our exchequer cannot fully support our food security agenda, because this money is being distributed across 20-something ministries. It's not enough. For example, in my ministry, the development budget for last year is not more than 18 billion. One dam.
For the whole country.
For the whole country. One dam, for example, the one that is very contentious, the Kenyans keep talking about, is Dwake.
Yeah.
It's costing 42 billion.
And it's still not complete.
Yeah. Still ongoing.
I mean.
Because of financing problems. So if you allocate me 20 billion, for example, one financial year, how many dams can I do to that tune? No, just answer that question.
So, but then why don't we see the smaller ones then completed? Because you can imagine if you're doing a development project, yes, at the end of the day, the point is that you finish the project so that you can start to reap the benefits, and that you can then start to see some kind of economic activity around them. But if we have schemes that are staying in situ for so long, when will you actually start to see the benefits? And if we continue to say government is working, we continue to be in that cyclical nature of things, and it doesn't get complete. So when will you see the benefits of such developments?
Let me give you, for example, have you been to Moya? Our best irrigation scheme in this country is Moya Irrigation Scheme. The Moya Irrigation Scheme has a capacity of doing 35,000 acres, only 35,000 acres of land. The problem with Moya was inadequate water. Now, by the year 2022, Dhiba Dam was completed. When Dhiba Dam was completed, we are able now, we stretched our irrigation capacity from what was happening around 26,000 to almost 30,000 as we speak today, acres are under irrigation. And we're in the process of doing the final canals to activate the remaining 5,000 acres. So the money we get from the exchequer in most parts is distributed to so many projects that are much easier. And the agenda actually in the ministry right now is to complete the incomplete projects. Yeah. But as a ministry, we have the responsibility to have a vision and to plan for the future. These things have to run in parallel. As you do big investments, you're also doing the small investments that actually touch the common mwananchi. Yeah. And to answer your question on why we have so many schemes spread all over, is because we have different soil varieties. What is grown in Pakera, what is grown in Bura, for example, what is grown in Hola, what is grown in soil in Lower Nzoia, where we were the other day trying to finish the main canal to irrigate more than 10,000 acres in that region again, are part of projects that are going all over with different arrangements and financing. The problem is finances. To achieve what we actually want, we need a bigger investment outlay as a nation.
Yes. A lot of these dams, if I remember, were under PPP agreements. Correct. So expecting that the cash would come from outside the country and quickly finish the dams, because we saw the expressway, which is not a dam, done in a very short time. Yeah. These PPPs that we have, are they the ones that are unable to finance this, or is it the exchequer? Because I'm assuming that the 20 billion should be exclusive of the money these PPP partners are putting in. So how does that balance out?
Good answer. Good question. PPP projects in water are not a walk in the park.
That's why I said it's not an expressway. Yes, it's difficult.
PPP projects in energy, in roads are easy because you just have to do tolling. For example, for you today to use the expressway, what do? Titi, you pay. Correct? But first of all, last year, the President, His Excellency Dr. Samoei William Ruto, signed an amendment to allow water to invest in, to attract investment in PPP. To give 100% water coverage, because we are at 73%, we require a tune of 995 billion cost.
Yes.
Where do we get our money? Concessional funding, exchequer. We are looking at grants. We are looking at all that, what even the government, both national government and the county government, contribute in the development in the water sector for the next 7 years. For the next 7 years, will be around, our estimates give us 539 billion. So we are still 466 billion short.
Okay.
How do we get this money?
And I think these are the things. I mean, it's quite unfortunate that our time is actually coming.
Let me answer the PP question because it's very critical for him.
I'll give you some seconds to do that. Yeah.
Yes. Because now, when a proponent comes into the industry and they want to invest in a dam, for example, they want to know who is the off-taker, the off-taker guarantee.
Yes.
Well, these people actually pay for water.
Yes.
And that is a big challenge with us as Kenyans. Will this water, how long? So what if they don't pay? Yes. And people argue in Kenya that water is free. So for us to attract PPP proponents is very, very difficult. And that's why we have hired a consultant to analyze our situation upon the President's assent of the Water Amendment Bill to allow us participate in PPP on how can we package our projects better to attract these people into the industry of water.
And I think those are the fundamental things.
Those are the fundamental issues.
I think one thing that has come up very clear here is that funding is not available, and even some projects are not complete. We're still in situ, whether we want to admit it or not, that we're still in situ for a lot of these things. And the cyclical nature of development requires that you have to keep these things rolling.
Yeah.
But it would be good to come back and have this conversation, a bit longer with you. But we want to thank you for being here this morning. Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation, Engineer Eric Muga, has been our guest this hour. Thank you very much for being here, and we look forward to this conversation again in the future. Good morning. It's 8:01.
Thank you.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lysamira. As Raila Odinga prepares to face his rivals in tomorrow's African Union Commission elections, the Southern African Development Community has written to all 16 member states seeking support for Madagascar's candidate. Raila, who's facing Madagascar's Richard Randriamandrato and Djibouti's Mohamed Ali Yusuf, is the only East African candidate. Africa's heads of state are scheduled to pick Moussa Faki's successor tomorrow and Sunday. The winning candidate must garner a 2/3 majority of the votes cast, translating to about 33 votes out of 48 AU member states eligible to vote. Meanwhile, National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has wished Raila success, thanking MPs who are travelling to Addis Ababa to support the former Prime Minister.
So let's give some foot thumping to those who have bought their own tickets and gone to Addis Ababa. Addis Ababa is one of the very expensive cities in Africa. An average hotel is $400-500 a night, and those members who have sponsored themselves have done a patriotic duty. We wish our candidate success in the forthcoming elections. And for the record, the Honorable Raila Odinga and I came to this parliament for the first time on the same day.
Wetangula also said that only 4 MPs are representing Parliament in Addis Ababa, dismissing claims that the government has sponsored 100 MPs to the Ethiopian capital.
The members are led by the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations, the Honorable Nelson Koech, CBS MP, the Honorable Haikam Miziki, CBS MP, the chairperson Diaspora Affairs and Migrant Workers Committee, the Honorable Major Retired Abdullahi Bashir Sheikh, MP, Vice Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations, the Honorable Millie Odhiambo, CBS MP.
The National Assembly's majority stalemate has taken an ethnic twist, with a section of Kenya Kwanza MPs defending House Speaker Moses Wetangula against accusations of bias. On Thursday, the MPs from the Western region issued a statement condemning Wetangula's critics, who vowed to oust him for failing to uphold last week's High Court ruling that declared the Azimio coalition the majority in Parliament. The MPs, including Vihiga Woman Rep Beatrice Adagala and Dagoretti North MP Beatrice Elachi, maintained that Wetangula lawfully pronounced himself on the matter.
We have seen and heard of a sustained attempt to vilify the office and person of the Speaker of the National Assembly, the retired Honorable Dr. Moses Wetangula, Masika Wetangula, EGH MP. Even after issuing guidance to the House, the vilification has continued unabated.
First of all, coming from the community of Western, there is no way Speaker is going, nowhere.
Kenya is among countries staring at a condom shortage crisis days after the US announced aid funding cuts. This year's International Condom Day celebrations on Thursday missed the usual flair of condoms that are normally distributed for free as part of efforts to promote safer sex and contraception. Kenya is among countries that are heavily reliant on the United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, free condom distribution program. Meanwhile, stakeholders in the healthcare system have expressed concern over the government's commitment to continue offering holistic and accessible HIV, malaria and TB treatment services.
We know the impact of job losses, we know the impact of commodities we've lost, and we know the impact of interference that and disruption that has resulted. We have not seen official government position commenting on this matter. And we have not seen the seriousness and the urgency on part of the government, because it is not enough to go and just assure persons who have HIV that there is enough stock of ARVs. Where there are job losses, you may have ARVs and there is nobody to dispense. So in as much as we are talking about a United States government's order, we are here also to talk to our government at the national and the county level to take the matter seriously and step in to address the gap, and also open dialogue with the US government on continuity of services.
The Indian government has brought the troubled northeastern state of Manipur under direct federal rule days after Chief Minister N. Biren Sai resigned. Sai, from India's governing BJP party, quit on Sunday after facing months of pressure to step down. Ethnic clashes broke out between the state's majority Meitei and minority Kuki communities in May 2023 over economic benefits, land rights and job quarters. More than 250 people have been killed in the conflict and tens of thousands displaced. That
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential? Are you ready to take the future in your hands? If so, then listen up. KCB to Jejiri is the plan. It's designed to empower young people like you, develop skills and knowledge you need to succeed in life. KCB to Jejiri combines vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship, preparing youth for jobs, entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Don't be left out. Visit kcbgroup.com/foundation to learn more.
Running a business in Kenya and struggling with slow, expensive cross-border payments? With Verto, you can send and receive money globally, faster, cheaper, and hassle-free. Pay suppliers, collect payments, and expand internationally with ease. 49 currencies, 190 plus countries. One powerful platform, better rates, faster settlements, secure transactions, global payments made easy. Sign up today at www.vertofx.com. Verto, your global business payments partner.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 8:08 into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning, Friday, the 14th of February. And live streaming is still up on YouTube, Facebook, and on X. And you continue clicking in and joining us this morning, as well as our audience on KTN. Good to have you this morning as we enter into different conversations. Tomorrow is the 15th of February, and we're going into voting for the incoming chairperson of the AUC. All right, before we get into that this morning, got to ask ourselves the question that 1 million people are getting into the job market, Mark, every month, every year, and sadly, not everybody has the skills that they need to get into a job or a business.
Well, you know, for many young people, either because of circumstance, you can't go to a university, or you just feel like you like to work with your hands, you're more a practical person, and you want to be a plumber, you want to be a hairstylist, you want to be a mechanic, as we saw yesterday. You need to find a place where you can get this schooling. Now, KCB to Jejiri has done this for over 35,000 young people, some of whom we've gotten to interview here. And the best part is when you listen to them, they're well prepared for, one, their jobs, and two, what it takes for them to dream in future. They're talking about they're going to invest, they're going to have employees, they've seen a place to do business, and they're also linked up with mentors who are able to give them the necessary guidance for them to succeed. And on top of that, life skills. You know, we're just talking about young people are not being able to cope. So please, if what I've said resonates with you, KCB to Jejiri program is for you. kcbgroup.com Foundation. That's where you'll find the details, and your life will be changed for the good.
There we go. And even as we talk about now going, across the nations and across borders, Verto FX says get to our website, www.vertofx.com. Why would you go here, and what would you find? Well, you'd find all the information that you need for business to business transactions. A lot of times the traditional ways of making payments and making sure that your supplies get to you can be slow. They can be laborious. They can be expensive, and sometimes hidden charges. Verto FX says none of that is happening here. With an ability for you to send money, pay for your supplies, look for liquidity across 190 different countries in 49 different currencies is available on this platform, and your business can continue with its seamless transactions, make payments in no time, and not have to worry that you're being charged more than you should. This is for businesses, whether they're small, whether they're medium, whether they're large organizations and corporations. Verto FX says come here, and we have the options and solutions for you. All right. As we get into a conversation this morning, the 15th of August is February, is a date that people have been talking about since August last year, or even before that, when we said, okay, fine. The heads of states will converge in Addis Ababa, and they will take a vote on who the next person will be. The chairperson of the AUC will take over from Chairperson Faki. Now, Honorable Albino Abog is a South Sudanese diplomat and parliamentarian, and he is our guest this hour as we look into Raila's prospects for the AUC. Honorable Abog, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Karibu Sana. Good to have you in the hot seat of the Situation Room this morning, looking at an interesting topic, because tomorrow, exactly like we said, that vote will be cast. But before we do that, being African, let's look at today's proverb, which CT will share with you, and then you can interpret that for us, right?
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week have been from the Gambia, the Republic of the Gambia. He who weeps in the morning knows what makes him weep. Who? Yes, he who weeps in the morning.
Oh, wow.
In the morning knows what makes him weep. Or was that morning?
Oh, morning. It was something.
My interpretation of that, it means that a person experience a pain is aware about what caused him the pain.
You've put it very beautifully, very simply, and very good.
In another way, it means that the pain does not occur without a reason, and those who feel the pain understand the source of the pain, even if it is others does not.
The wearer of the shoe is that who knows where it pinches.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, very clear. The African Union Commission will have a new chairperson from the end of tomorrow, after the heads of state converge in Addis Ababa to take the vote. It is not the first time, obviously, because there's a chairperson now who's outgoing, but it seems that it's taken, and it's actually not the first time that Kenya has put somebody up for this particular vote. But this one seems to be very different, because it's in the person of Raila Odinga, from the Kenyan perspective, who is going to, who is one of the candidates. And it seems like it's a hotly contested battle at this point in terms of who will come out on top. Give us your overview of what you see as somebody who is quite involved in the matters of this region, and what you feel will come out of all of this.
Thank you very much, Honorable Albino Abog from South Sudan. I've been in the AU as a special envoy of the African Union for 11 years, so I know the system very well.
Yeah.
What I can say, this time the elections are different. You have to divide the African Union into 5 regions: Northern Africa, Southern Africa, Eastern Africa, Western Africa, and Central. This time it is based on the rotations, and the rotation is based here in Eastern Africa region. So based on the numbers, and as somebody who have been engaged and doing a lot of follow-up, I believe Raila have a chance comparing to the others competitor. in terms of numbers, because we have 14 countries, the 4 islands. You have Comoros, Seychelles, Madagascar, Mauritius, and I think there is one candidate from one of the islands.
Yes, Madagascar.
So, sheikhs, maybe you are likely to have maybe 1 island or 2 islands. I can't talk about it here because it is not an open. I'm likely to vote for island. And then you have South Sudan, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Eritrea and Ethiopia. I believe they are also on their way to vote for Odinga. But nevertheless, the election are won.
Yes.
On the day of the election.
Of the vote.
So Djibouti also is a very strong candidate due to the commitment of the Arab Leagues and the other Islamic states who have committed to vote for him. But at the end, it is all about the numbers. Lastly,
let me ask this question. Djibouti is a French enclave. If the Arab League, as you say, support this candidacy, would you then say that the Francophone countries, and France in particular, would also support this candidacy?
You might be right, but France as a country are not favorite at this particular time in the continent of Africa. Let us go to West Africa, where you have about 4 countries, 5, and that is good for Mr. Odinga. If those countries would have been allowed to vote and they were on the front side, that would have been a very serious problem to Mr. Odinga. You have Mali, Guinea-Conakry, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Gabon. All these are French speaking, but they are not going to vote.
They're not going to vote?
They will not, because they have sanctions due to the coup in their countries.
You know, the thing is, and you're quite correct, that the 6 countries do actually also bring down the threshold of how many votes you need to win. But the question is, Olusegun Obasanjo has been campaigning for Raila, we assume, in West Africa. For a long time, we were sure that Cyril Ramaphosa, being a private friend of Mr. Odinga, would definitely be on his side. Tanzania has oftentimes gone the SADC route versus supporting Kenya. SADC has declared that they go for the Madagascar guy. And then you've got Tshisekedi and the issue around the Eastern Congo and the Rwanda cycle. How are those balances going to happen now, taking in SADC, Congo, and now...
I have been involved myself more than Obasanjo in the election of Mr. Odinga. So I met with His Excellency, the President of DRC. He might have an issues with the country of Kenya, but he's a personal friend to Mr. Odinga.
Yes.
Yes, the SADCs might have made a decision based on the interest. Likewise, the Arab League also have made a decision. But at the end, it is about the country to make the decision. And it is a secret ballot. So during the time of the election, there are a lot of freedom of speech.
Is it secret or is it secret?
I don't know.
Secret.
You can interpret it the way you want.
So if Tshisekedi, for example, is on the side of Mr. Odinga, where does that put one Mr. Kagame and the other one Mr. Yoweri Kaguta Museveni?
Museveni and was here in the December last year.
Yes.
To attend the event of Mr. Odinga, and I believe His Excellency President William Ruto also was in the Law Nyanza. Last week I was in actually 6 days ago, I went to meet with His Excellency Museveni, and he told me in person he will vote for Odinga, and he will even campaign. So I don't see any issue.
Okay. I have to ask the question because we talk about it being a game of numbers, but at the same time, looking at a position whereby if you want to compare with what is happening in Europe at the moment, where there's a lot of call for nationalism, renewed force of nationalism, and if you want to look at the United States, who've just come out of an election and have put in office another man again who is fighting for nationalism, we've come to the place where Africa is also going back to the place where they say there must be some kind of African unity. We must then get to the place where Africa must rise and get Africa great again. How does this then influence how people will vote as per who will sit at the position of African unity when we're trying to bring countries again together? Because we can talk about numbers and we can talk about, friends. Olusegun Obasanjo doing the rounds, Ambassador doing the rounds. We can talk about Cyril Ramaphosa being a good friend of Raila Odinga, or we can talk about Mr. Mohammed and his support that he gets from the Arab League, or support that he gets from the Islamic League. How does the Africanness, the Pan-Africanism of Africa then contribute to how nation heads will vote for whom they want to bring countries together?
I do agree with you, but it is about the nation interest. If I'm a southern Sudanese leader, why do I have to vote for a country of Kenya? What is my interest?
Absolutely.
So in this region, in Eastern Africa, as a region, we have 14 countries. So Sudan will look into their own interests. Ethiopia will look into their own interests. They will examine the relationship between Kenya and Somalia, Djibouti and Somalia, South Sudan and Kenya, Uganda and Kenya. You talk about the issue of Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism was a very strong term in 60s and 70s and 80s. But I don't think in this 21st century is actually quite active like the way we are expecting.
There are calls to bring it back, though. There are calls to bring it back.
Then let's see in this election if the issue of Pan-Africanism is working, as it has been said, then the right person to win will be Mr. Raila Odinga, comparing to the other candidate.
I have to ask this question. The chair of the AUC has existed since, I think, the year 2002. Now, the candidates have been there, but have we ever seen the amount of attention being given to this candidacy as we've seen now?
No.
Yes. Now,
it is because African Union is getting more interesting. Time with the time. The Africans start to have a lot of voice. And we have a subcontinent organization. In Eastern Africa, we have the IGAD.
Yes.
And in Southern Africa, we have SADC. And in Northern Africa, we have the Maghreb. In Western Africa, we have the ECOWAS. In Central, we have the, the SADC. The community of Central Africa, COMESA. So in this region, in a different region, North, South, East, West, and Central, there is a lot of involvement about the resources which are involved in this continent, especially raw material. So there is a competition internationally. So Africa is getting more interesting regionally, continentally, and internationally. And that's why the competition of the position of the African Union is getting very interesting.
From what you say, international interest on the continent has not even increased, it's hyped.
Yes.
So which means the international interest would have an interest in who becomes the AUC chair, would they not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and aren't they the biggest, one of the biggest funders outside of the African
Ironically,
yes.
Yes, but during the vote, they don't vote.
No, they don't. Yes. But this is Africa, and the votes are counted even before they are cast.
In national elections, there are foreign countries who don't vote in national elections in Africa, but are heavily influential of certain processes that take place. It's not far from the African Union either.
Yes, let us start with Southern Africa region. We have 10 countries.
Yes.
You have Angola, South Africa, Eswatini, Zambia, Malawi, Zambia, Lesotho, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Botswana. Tanzania is in the east.
It's in east,
but they are a member of SADC.
They are members of SADC.
Yes, but they're in East Africa.
But they are not.
But they are in East Africa.
They are in East Africa.
Yeah, true. I'm just saying, in terms of this particular vote, Tanzania could be counted on that side.
Why?
This is how it works. Tanzania has a country. They are in Eastern Africa, but they are a member of the SADC.
Yes.
DRC are a member of the SADC, but they are also a member of the East African.
Yes.
You have Burundi. They are in Central Africa region, but they are a member of the East African community.
Yes.
So during the AU voting system, Burundi and DRC will vote in the central. South Africa and the others will vote in the south. But they have this organization which put them together, the SADC, who are non-members of the Southern Africa region, but they have been invited to be the members, like the way DRC have been invited to become a member of the East African community. So at the last, it depends about the policy of the country. Where do you feel to have your own interests? So Kenya have to actually exempt their relationship with DRC, Kenya relationship with Burundi, Kenya relationship with Tanzania, Kenya relationship with Uganda, Kenya relationship with Somalia, all the neighbors. This is how it works.
Okay. But then I have to ask the question. I'm piggybacking on the question asked earlier on. Yes, the relationship with the country, but the country doesn't relate to another country. The people who lead the country relate to leaders of their neighboring countries. I prefaced my earlier statement about personalities. When you have a personality that is as known as the current Kenyan candidate for the AUC chair, the person that he is that a contributing factor to whether he can get elected or not elected? Because this is a strong personality.
It plays two sides. Raila might have friends, it might also have an enemies.
You will have enemies if you are that powerful.
Yes. So if the time is now, I believe Raila as a person will contribute to his candidature as a candidate, and also to Kenya as a country. For example, Raila have a very good relationship with the president of DRC. He told me in person how he have helped him. I cannot talk about it, and he know. And I even came and I told him this is what I was told. He said, yes, it is true. His relationship with the president of Ivory Coast, when he had a problem and he was sent here as a special invoice, him and the former president of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, how they were able to sort out the problem of
Ivory Coast.
Into that, his relationship in Ghana, his relationship in Nigeria, South Africa, and some of the other countries. That will help. But you need a strong support from your own country.
Yes.
So that if you combine the two, it can turn out to be negative or positive based on your personality.
We're taking very serious numbers to Addis Ababa.
in terms of support.
In terms of support. Some of they can't vote.
Yeah.
But just to show that we support.
Yes.
If we look at the role of the AUC chair, I think that should... You got it, yeah? If we look at the role of the AUC chair, and one of the main items that we're looking at now is essentially the image of Africa on the international stage as a whole. Taking the African Union and presenting it on the international scale, lobbying, pushing for space, essentially scrimmaging for space on the international scene, representing the day-to-day activities of the Commission. Those things happen. But then when we're looking at as a chair, as somebody who now serves in that representative role, it's collective in nature, right? So it's taking Africa as a whole, doesn't take the individual countries as a whole. So what I'm trying to understand then is how any country who decides who the chairperson will be, when they look at the overall role, how does that affect their countries as an individual country, dependent on how they would give their vote?
Well, it depends. It depends of how do you want actually to interpret into it. African Union of today is not the African Union of
yesteryears,
several years back, due to what you have just said. So I will not dwell on it too much.
There's the subject of now the role of the chair on the continent. There's what we read and there's what you know, because this is something you understand well. Why is it that this role exists and why is it important?
It is important because of the personality who are involved. For example, in Kenya, there are people who believe Raila Odinga should be here to do politics. In the continent, there are people who believe also Raila should be here to concentrate because of his age and do some other things as an elder. But also in the region, there are people who believe Raila can contribute to the issue of Pan-Africanism. You have just talked about it.
Yeah.
But also in this country, there are people who believe Raila can contribute, not only in the region, not only the continent, and also the international community. He will be a different chair of the African Union. Remember, those who have came before as the chair of the African Union, where they came from as a Minister of Foreign Affairs or something like this. But Raila he will be the first Prime Minister to be the chair of the African Union if he wins tomorrow.
Wins. Okay, let's take a break at this point. It's 28 minutes to 9 o'clock. We're having a conversation with the Honourable Albino Abug, and we're talking about, all right, so tomorrow it goes to the vote, and heads of state will converge in Addis Ababa to then take that vote and see who will be the next chair of the AUC. We'll continue with that conversation as we come back, as Mark reminds us that, yes, there are 1 million people who are entering into the job market every year. What's happening with them?
Those 1 million people are entering the job market, some without skills, some with degrees, but at the end of the day, all of them are looking for a way to be employed. Now, whether you have a degree or not, whether you have a certificate or not, as long as you have a Kenyan ID, you are eligible to apply and possibly be granted a scholarship into the KCB to Jiajiri program to develop your skills as a practitioner of the field you prefer, and also as someone who is now ready to tackle the world of business and ajiri other people. So the KCB to Jiajiri program is for you. Go to kcbgroup.com/foundation and you will be well on your way to achieving your dreams.
Ambassador, sometimes you need a break, don't you? Sometimes you
Yes,
need
we
something.
do.
Yeah, sometimes you just need something that is just going to cool you down. In front of you, there is Delamare yogurt, and we're having an moment with Delamare yogurt, and there's an opportunity for you to have something. This is the strawberry one that you've been presented by Mark, and today is also Valentine's Day, so take your pick. You can decide to.
Happy Valentine's Day.
You see? So
and happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you, sir.
You can indulge in the moments with Delamare, and that one that you have is the strawberry variety, I believe, and it actually has real strawberry fruit in it. So enjoy that and that break moment with Delamare. Good morning. It's 26 to 9.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start
Some
your
days
day.
just have you feeling, you know the ones. Very few aha moments. Just moments. Maybe even a few Because how can a day this good feel so meh? But then, you realize your moment of escape is a cup of indulgence away. Delamare.
Get lost in rich, creamy, flavorful bliss with every spoonful of Delamare real fruit yogurt. Indulge in the moment.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi this morning at 15 degrees. It is 16 and sunny in Nakuru and 16 and sunny in Nyeri. Eldoret is sunny at 16, while looking into a sunny Mombasa at 26, and Malindi at 27 is sunny. At 24, Kisumu is sunny, and 20 with sunny conditions in Kakamega. Cloudy at 23 in Kampala, and in Dar es Salaam at 26 it's sunny. 21 and mostly cloudy in Johannesburg, while at 27 it's sunny in Mogadishu, and 15 and sunny in Addis Ababa. It's clear at 27 in Lagos, and 23 and cloudy in Kinshasa.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
A busy Friday morning, and we're looking at some traffic that's still coming off of Magadi Road today, connecting with Langata Road, but it's going to dissipate as you get to that junction, so no problem here. Aerodrome, as you approach Uhuru Highway, is also busy, but Uhuru Highway itself is not giving up too much traffic. It's busy on Kangunda Road, but we'll get through that. Not too much of an issue. Limuru Road is busy, as is Kiambu Road, and some parts of the Thika Superhighway as you get towards Survey, but the rest of it's all pretty manageable. We're still in traffic hour this Friday morning. Let's see what happens as we get through it, and we'll talk on SpiceFM. KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The 15th of February is the date tomorrow, and that is when the AUC chairperson will be selected by vote of the African heads of state. Raila Odinga is one of those candidates, and joining us in the studio this hour is Honorable Abug Albino, who is talking to us about, some of those issues. And some of these issues take into consideration, when we talk about the vote, some of the issues that are taken into consideration are the things that are going on the continent at the current time. The conflict in DRC, in Eastern DRC, the stability of other nations, South Sudan being one of them, and we look at the conflict that goes on there, and who would then be able to connect the dots. And we can go into that South Sudan conflict area for a bit, because there has been conflict in South Sudan for a very long time. It has been said that the world has ignored this conflict and has focused on other conflict areas like the Ukraine and Russia incident that has focused primarily on the Israel and Palestine. But here we are saying that there is a war, there is a conflict here that is affecting many more people in a more severe manner than anybody is paying attention to. Is this a connector point, for example, for the person who would come into that seat of the AU to then be able to say, look, we have to look for these solutions for those that are affecting us as Africans?
Thank you very much. In regard to South Sudan, as a Southern Sudanese, we need to put our house in order. And not only in South Sudan, our neighbor also, Sudan, Khartoum. There is a lot of fighting ongoing. It has intensified for the last 2 to 3 weeks in Sudan. And this is the different opinion from two generals, General Burhan and General Amati. And the war has been going on now for almost a year. People who are dying in Sudan are more than people who are dying in Ukraine. People who are dying in Sudan are more than people who are dying in Gaza. But nobody talk about it. That is something we can talk about it another day. I don't think the African Union, the incoming chair of the African Union, he will be in a better position to address the issues. But the responsibility of each region was in the sub-region in the continent of the African Union. If there is a problem, for example, in South Africa, that have to be handled by the SADCs.
Yes.
And if there is a problem in Mali, it have to be handled by the ECOWAS. And if there is a problem in South Sudan, it have to be handled by IGAD. So far, if the IGAD cannot handle the issue of Sudan and South Sudan and other countries, Somalia, then you have to transfer it to the African Union. And this is where now the chair of the African Union can come in. So by the time you transfer the case from the region to the continent, it takes a lot of time.
Right.
And you will have a lot of victims between. So we have to change that system. We have to change that system. I believe if I have an opportunity to advise our leaders, they have to change that system so that they can address the issues instead of going through what we call it a subcontinent, because it delays the process and a lot of people are dying in the middle. One of the issues which are also affecting a lot of people in the continent of Africa is our election system are still far behind. So if I disagree with you, I am in the opposition and I have no place. I don't see myself winning any election. Whoever is in charge will use the necessary force to we have seen it in some of the countries here, in whether it is in South Sudan, whether in some other countries I cannot mention. Yeah, you will use to take care of your own opponent.
Right.
Believe. Yes.
I mean, there have been, sorry, just because I want to segue just a little bit, because if we look at, if we a conflict is localized, however, the effects of a conflict then spread way beyond that geographical area. And if we're looking at Africa as a whole and say that, so who needs to be taking responsibility? Here we are saying that there are regional bodies, right? And then there are, there is a continental body in the African Union that should handle some of these things at the very minimum. And that's why we've heard a lot of the things that have come up, for example, like Toothless Organization, an organization that is mostly funded by external parties. So, of course, if the person who is funding the union to a large extent, essentially is going to call the shots. Do you think that the folks who are funding the African Union, for example, are interested in Africa being a strong force? They're not interested in that. So what needs to happen in order for the African Union to actually take this bull by the horns and be able to, why should we be lamenting that the world is not paying attention to an African conflict when we have an African body in place that's supposed to be doing 1, 2, 3, but it's barely scratching the surface at 1?
Remember, as an NGO within the structure of the regions, you have the member of the state, for example, whether it is East African Community or IGAD. And these members of the state, they have a right to determine what can be done and what should not be done. So it is not up on the citizen to have an open opinion about what direction they want to take in life. Therefore, it becomes very, very, very extremely difficult to give an honest opinion of how things can actually move within the structure of the organization in our continent or in our region. For example, there are issues in my countries in South Sudan, and there are issues in Sudan. There are also issues here in Kenya. And there are also other issues in different parts, some in the island and others. But a head of the state, the representative of the country, will say, no, you should not interfere in our own internal affairs. What can you do? Are you going to go for a civil war? No. So we still have a long way to go. We have to put our house in order for us to address the issues which are affecting us in our continent.
There's an issue that isn't discussed much when we talk about the AUC chair. That is the position of the vice chair. This particular season of elections, that particular position is going to North Africa. And there are two contenders, Egypt, Algeria. My question is this. The horse trading that takes place in any election, does the election of an individual from these two countries for that particular position also play a part in the election of the chair of the AUC?
Yes, it is. The two countries you have just mentioned, they have a candidate. And they are all women. And they are very powerful countries in the continent and also in their respective regions. So in the real sense, if I was in a better place, I would choose between Egypt and Algeria. Algeria have more force in the region. But Algeria also can have a negative side due to their problem with Morocco. So in the real sense, but if you get Algeria, it is easily and likely you will get Western Sahara, Tunisia, Libya, and Mauritania.
If you get Morocco.
If you get Algeria.
If you get Algeria.
Yes. So Algeria come with something.
They come bearing gifts.
Yes. I don't know what come with Egypt.
The Nile. The Nile.
Halfway to Europe.
Just a quick question, and perhaps to follow up on CT's question. Where does the balance of religion come in? There's regional balance, for sure, because, for example, the vice chairperson position has been segmented for the north. Now, I'm just thinking, in the event that Djibouti wins and, let's say, Algeria wins, would that be taken as a pro-Islamic position, or will the balance of trying to find a Christian and a Muslim to deputize also play into the horse trading that will happen?
Is it religion or geography?
No, we already established geography. That's what I'm asking about religion.
Well, your question, it is good, but it is a little bit...
It's political.
It's political.
Yes.
We are dealing with the democratization of the election in the continent.
Sure.
Yes.
I will give you a very good example about a country of Nigeria.
Yes.
In Nigeria, you're supposed to have a Muslim
and a Christian.
Or north and south.
North and south, or north and central.
Because you can have a Muslim from the south.
You can have the Muslim from the south.
Absolutely.
And you can have the Muslim from the south also.
Absolutely. So it's north and
you
south.
can have the Christian
from the north.
From the north.
Yeah.
And I will give you a very good example now. In Nigeria, it is a Muslim at the current time.
Exactly.
So you might be right, but in terms of the democratization, it is right. So if the gentleman from Djibouti or the other gentleman from Madagascar, it could be a Hindus or
Absolutely.
or a Roman Catholic.
Yeah, because I know for a fact that there's a lot of horse trading and that will happen, especially if there's more than one round, correct?
Yes, but religion is not a big deal
No, I'm asking now about the rounds.
Yes.
And the horse trading, because let's say none of these three qualify in the first round. What sequentially happens after that?
They're giving 6 months or 90 days. They'll come back again.
And figure it out.
Yeah.
And the current share will continue.
And then
that happened with Madame Zuma.
Yeah. And is it all three that are going to go into the second round, or is it?
It will be the
process of elimination.
Yeah, and that in that scenario that plays into Raila's hands, if I do my math correctly.
I think it play into Raila's hand now instead of waiting more.
So we don't want a second round.
Actually, let me ask the question.
Yeah.
This is a playing field that you're very familiar with. Why would you say that it's playing into his hands now?
Because checking the numbers, let us go country by country.
Yes, please.
Let us start with West Africa, for example. A country which are probability to vote for Raila Odinga. You have Gambia, which has said it very openly they will vote for Ghana. You have Ghana. They say they will vote for Raila. You have Ivory Coast. They say they will vote for Ghana, for Kenya. And then you have the other two countries, Liberia and Sierra Leone. These are 5 countries. And Nigeria. I haven't heard, but the president has promised. The president is the president, because he will be the one to vote. So if you have 6 countries, then you are left with a few countries, like Benin, Senegal,
Cameroon.
Cameroon is in the central. We are talking about the west. Yes.
You know, in my head, Cameroon is in the
west. Well, in the map too.
It is in the ECAS. These are the organization of ECAS, which is Central Africa region. So in this, you will have 6 or 7 countries in Western Africa voting for Raila Odinga. If you postpone the election for another 90 days, you don't know what will happen in the middle. Then you come now to Eastern Africa as our region.
Yes.
You compare the 3 candidates. He takes Comoros Island, for example, and
Seychelles.
No, Mauritius. I'll talk about what I know. What I don't know, I'll talk about it.
Yes.
So, and then you come to South Sudan, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, Eritrea, and Ethiopia.
Yes.
Then you have 8 countries out of 13. So, still, Mr. Odinga still have the numbers in the East, comparing to any candidate. Then let us go to North Africa. We might have 0 now, but probability of Raila might win because Algerians are not happy with France. And it is perceived the candidate of Djibouti is an ally to the country of France.
Right.
So then you have Algeria can bring in Western Sahara, and it can bring in Mauritania. And Libya and Tunisia.
So it sounds like a game of chess here.
It is a game of chess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you have to
and
make
all
the right
these
move.
things can change at last minute. You
Right.
don't know. Also, you don't know what is the deal between Egypt and Kenya, because the election are held for the chair. So whoever will win the chair, you will now say, I have voted for you, so it is my turn. So please vote for me. So the numbers, I cannot say this particular A and B in the north. Let us come to the central. Central, we have Cameroons, Equatorial Guinea, and Gabon, but they are not voting because of the sanction. Then you have Chad, and you have Central African Republic, and you have the 2 Congo and Burundi. And there is another island called Sao Tome and Principe. So you have 8 countries in Central Africa region. So in this case, you are likely to have, I will still say DRC will vote for Kenya due to the friendship. So you have 2 plus Burundi and Central Africa. And the president of Equatorial Guinea is a personal friend to Mr. Odinga. So you have,
this man has many friends on this continent.
Yes. So you have 5 countries out of 8 likely to vote for him. So check all the numbers. You're talking about between 29 and 32, and that's what you need out of the current number 54 minus 6. So you're talking 48. So he has the numbers. But the election are won
after the votes have
been called.
Have actually been
so
counted.
I cannot say it is A and B.
Well, so tomorrow then, essentially, will tell us one way or another where it's going to be, bang on the first round and everybody will know what exactly is happening or whether you're going to the second or third, whatever the case may be. But I think there's a bigger case here crying for essentially what will happen with the continent then moving forward, regardless of whoever takes over. Does this present an opportunity to get African leadership, really? Like you said, we have to get our house in order as a continent. So whoever is going to come into play, where do you see as their biggest responsibility off the blocks as they get into this position?
I don't think it will change so much whether Raila is elected or Raila is not elected, because we have to change the mindset in the continent. If you don't take care of your own citizen, then nobody will take care of your own citizen. And the citizens are going to be left behind. And if you left the citizen behind, then you have no respect, whether it is region or an international. So, and that's why in Europe, all these leaders work so hard to take care of their own citizens. So we have to actually set up the system which is fair for everybody, so that those who are in the opposition will have an opportunity to talk. Those who are in the government will also have an opportunity to talk. But if it is based on the limitations, then we have a long way to go in the continent of Africa. And that's what we are facing. We're still having even a coups in the continent.
True.
So you have 5 coups, 6 coups in the continent. Sudan.
Conflicts.
Conflict in South Sudan, conflicts in Sudan, conflicts in Mali, Niger, Libya, and so on.
So there's still a lot of work to do.
We
on the
still
ground.
have a lot to do, but it is based if we can set up a proper constitution which hold everybody accountable.
And hopefully that will be the thrust of the conversations moving forward. I want to thank you for sharing your insights with us this morning. The Honorable Abino Abu has been our guest this hour, South Sudanese diplomat as well as a parliamentarian, sharing insights. It's going to wait and see position that we are in for tomorrow, the 15th of February, when African heads of state will converge to cast their vote for the incoming AUC chair. So we're all, waiting with bated breath to see what happens. But the core is to see that Africa actually gets its house in order and starts to sort some things out as concerns the original idea for African unity. All right, as we come to the close of the top of this hour, let's remind you that 200 shillings is the amount that you need to look for to essentially to put aside. So what happens when your plan doesn't come through, or when you do see that sickness strikes? Let's be real. If you had a loved one or someone else in hospital today, how would you handle that? What would it be? Would you take a loan? Would you bring some people together to put some much needed funds together? Would you call family and friends for help? Or would you delay treatment and wait until you get the money? Probably you wouldn't. Hopefully you would have already been covered by health insurance. So the smart choice is with Jubilee Health Insurance this morning. 200 shillings, put it aside every month and make sure that you can actually start accessing health care. Affordable plans for as low as 200 per month, flexible lipa pole pole payments get covered immediately. So you can start and then get covered immediately, and you can pay in small installments. Extra benefits like telemedicine, free drug delivery, and wellness programs. Sign up now. What you need to do is send the word health to 40643 or call 0709 949 000 or visit the website www.jubileeinsurance.com for more information. Medical emergencies don't wait. Why should you? Get covered today with Jubilee Health Insurance. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lysamira. Former Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu's woes have deepened after the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission announced that it's pursuing recovery for unexplained assets against him amounting to 1.9 billion shillings. This comes a day after Waititu was sentenced to 12 years in prison or an alternative fine of 53 million shillings for conflict of interest in a 588 million corruption case. His wife Susan Wangari was also sentenced to 1 year in prison or a fine of 500,000 shillings. In a statement on X, the EACC welcomed the sentencing, saying the case in relation to the unexplained assets is pending judgment. The commission noted that Waititu's sentencing comes barely a year after former Samburu Governor Moses Lenul Kolal was convicted for corruption offences related to conflict of interest, marking a significant milestone in the fight against corruption. Lance PS Nixon Koril and his environment counterpart Gitonga Mugambi have held a meeting with various communities living in the eastern part of the Mau forest to discuss the establishment of an official boundary for the forest. This follows the Nakuru Environment and Lands Court's directive that the boundary be established basing on a Gazette notice of 2001, which announced the government's intention to alter the boundaries of the eastern part of the forest. While some members of the community want communal land titles, there are those who want individual land titles.
And the reason why hii mambo ya Mau haijawaisha ni kwa sababu kumekuwa na mvutano ambaye haisaidii, especially on the mambo ya boundary. Serikali hii leo inakuja inasema boundary ni hapa, kesho inasema hapa, kesho inasema hapa, lakini mahakama sasa imetuambia boundary ni hii. Nyinyi ni majirani, tafadhali tukamilishe hii mambo ndio kila mtu apate title yake. Kama ni community ugie kipate title yake, kila mtu asaidike na hiyo ardhi ambayo iko hapo Mau.
For their part, members of the Ogiek community urged the government to implement the orders of local courts as well as those of the East African Court in Arusha.
Kama serikali walikuwa wametufikia, jamii yote hatukia kanyaga. Hebu imagine tulianza hapa kwetu Nairobi, hapa sio bali. Mkawacha mpaka tukaenda huko Arusha.
Bila kesi ilisema ya kwamba jamii ya Ogiek wakaa katika estima kutoka Sururu mpaka Barage. Hapo ndio tunataka serikali ikae chini na itambue jamii ya Ogiek.
The National Assembly's majority stalemate has taken an ethnic twist, with a section of Kenya Kwanza MPs defending House Speaker Moses Wetangula against accusations of bias. On Thursday, the MPs from the Western region issued a statement condemning Wetangula's critics, who vowed to oust him for failing to uphold last week's High Court ruling that declared the Azimio coalition the majority in Parliament. The MPs, including Vihiga Woman Rep Beatrice Adagala and Dagoretti North MP Beatrice Alachi, maintained that Wetangula lawfully pronounced himself on the matter.
We have seen and heard of a sustained attempt to vilify the office and person of the Speaker of the National Assembly, the retired Honorable Dr. Moses Wetangula, Masika Wetangula, EGH MP. Even after issuing guidance to the House, the vilification has continued unabated.
First of all, coming from the community of Western, there is no way Speaker is going, nowhere.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has hailed a mega partnership between the US and India as he and US leader Donald Trump wrapped up their meeting. Trump said India would be purchasing American oil and gas in an effort to close the trade deficit between both countries.
We have, I think, some very big things to talk about. Number one is they're going to be purchasing a lot of our oil and gas. We have more oil and gas than any other country in the world by far. And they need it, and we have it. And we're going to talk about trade. We're going to talk about many things. But it's really an honor to see you. And you have been my friend for a long time. And congratulations on having done a great job.
Modi's two-day visit comes as Trump recently ordered that all the U.S. trading partners, including India, should face sweeping reciprocal tariffs. The Indian leader, seeking to soften impending trade barriers, said he was open to reducing tariffs on U.S. goods, repatriating undocumented Indian nationals, and buying military fighter jets from the U.S. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
.4 Spice FM. Nairobi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM. Nairobi.
It's 5 minutes after 9 o'clock, and I say, look, if you dip into your pockets, can you find 200 shillings? If you look somewhere and shake everything, turn it upside down, can you find 200 bob? Well, what I want you to do with this 200 shillings is start to put it aside. 200 shillings every month. Because, you know, when a health emergency rocks up, when it pops up on you, you're not going to say, well, let me see if I can take a loan. Well, you might, but it might be a bit difficult. You might put together some people and say, let's put some money together and now sort out hospital bills. Might be difficult. Or you could say, you know what? Let's just hope the health situation goes away. The likelihood of that happening is very low. But what if you had already started to put away that 200 shillings that I'm asking you for? Put it away every month. And what Jubilee Health Insurance says, start putting that 200 shillings away and we can actually start to sort out medical issues for you, medical costs for you immediately, right? With the Lipa Pole scheme at Jubilee Health Insurance. Start today. You also then get access to many things. 800 plus outlets, hospitals around the country, telemedicine for free. That means you can get on the phone and talk to a doctor who could talk about your symptoms and get you sorted. It also means that you could get free drug delivery and you could have access to programs on wellness and mental health checks and things like that. Jubilee Health Insurance says don't wait for the emergency. Start now. Send the word health to 40643 or call 0709 949 000. Visit the website at www.jubileeinsurance.com. All in good stead, because in this hour we're getting into a Healthy Friday conversation. We'll tell you what that is in just a minute, because CT wants you to buy a house.
Yes, but only if you want to buy a house.
Oh yeah?
Yes, because the offer is for those who are willing to take it up. Diamond Trust Bank is saying, look, we have this offer. We have something that can be tailor-made to suit your needs. And the salient details are as follows. One, let's talk about interest rate. 9% if you're going to borrow for 10 years. 9.75 if you're going to borrow for 25 years. No hidden charges. No surprises with penalties if you pay ahead of schedule. And what is of more interest is that the partnership that Diamond Trust Bank has is with the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. That's why those interest rates are steady. They're not going to fluctuate. They're not going to do this weather thing of today it's hot, today it's cold. It's going to be exactly what I've just mentioned. But you need not worry if you're self-employed or if you have a job or even if you're in the diaspora. Now, this is where it gets interesting. If you are in paid employment, you can get a loan of up to 105%. If you're in the diaspora, you're not to be left out. We're talking 80%. Okay? Now, everything I'm saying makes sense, but why don't you authenticate it? Visit any Diamond Trust Bank branch, or better still, if you want to give your legs a rest, let your fingers do the walking.
Voila.
Yes, email mortgages@dtbafrica.com.
Beautiful. And that's the way to go about it. So there are two things that are happening today, and people's hearts are fluttering up and down, jumping, doing a thing, because maybe something will happen, maybe it will not. Don't fight with anybody because they might bring you that. So that's happening. We're also having a Healthy Friday conversation today. And so we've decided that, okay, fine. As we're having a Healthy Friday conversation, let's take into consideration, as the judges do, the atmosphere, And now let us wrap that Healthy Friday conversation around the heart. And we'll be discussing matters of the heart today. And our guest is already in the studio. Dr. David Givanga is here. He's a consultant pediatric cardiologist and a public health specialist, and he's here to discuss matters of the heart with us today. Boom, boom. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning, too. How are you?
Very well.
I almost want to ask him whether he fixes broken hearts.
Don't worry. That's why he's
That's
here.
why he said almost. Almost.
That's why he's here. Don't worry, Mark. Your issues will be sorted. Dr. is here today. So, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Dr. good morning.
Good morning, too.
You're well?
Very well, thanks.
Good. Yes. So you're going to fix Mark's broken heart today, and then also tell us how you fix others. But before you do that, how about we welcome you to the show with Proverb. So CT, as you know, he skips about, and he's got very interesting ones this week. Okay. So let him tell you what that is, and then you can interpret that for us.
Yes, we've been in the Republic of the Gambia. I still get tickled in the Gambia.
Yes.
Not the Kenya.
They have to introduce themselves.
Not the Tanzania, but the Gambia. He who weeps in the morning knows what makes him weep.
Wow. He who weeps in the morning knows what
makes him weep.
I guess what comes straight off my head is you really know why you're crying. I mean, the reasons are there. Another person looking at you may not know, but you deeply know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know.
You know.
Okay. So we're getting into it this morning, a Healthy Friday conversation. I mean, it is really matters of the heart. And just looking at an overview of some of the diseases that do affect the heart, or some of the conditions of the heart. And in most cases, stop me if I'm wrong, but they're called non-communicable diseases, right? Okay. So if we can get into that, please do tell us, heart health as a country as a whole, what are you seeing really that would maybe have you worried or have you impressed or make you want to do a little bit more to make sure that, we keep some of these things at bay? Give us an overview.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's interesting that we should be talking about the heart on the
I have to tell you, the maestro of these things is sitting to your left. Yes. And where's your left?
His other right.
His other left. So
he seated to your
brilliant.
left.
I must debunk the theory that the heart is a seat of love and things like that. It's really just a pump. It's just the most efficient pump in the world.
Bacteria was most dumped, and my physical heart.
Yes, the heart is just a pump, the most efficient pump that after fertilization, in about 3 weeks, you can actually identify the heart activity. And it bangs away the whole of your life until you die. So it's really effectively just a pump. Yeah, but it's interesting that we're talking about the heart. And it's a heart day.
Yeah.
And when you talk about heart diseases, I am a pediatrician. I must declare we think about heart diseases in children in two broad categories. Is it something you're born with, or is it something you acquire?
Congenital or
congenital. Excellent. Congenital when you want to sound educated.
Thanks.
Born with or you acquire. Right. So when you look at the general incidence, how often does it happen? We say about 8 in 1,000 live birds will have a heart disease. About 8 in 1,000. We say that's the incidence. When we say 8 in 1,000, 2 in 1,000 will have serious heart disease that will die probably within the next 24, 48 hours after they're born.
Wow.
Right? So about 6 will live on for them to be diagnosed, for them to present in a certain way. So if there's sudden death in a newborn, one of the things in the back of your mind, was it a heart disease? So some may not be diagnosed depending on where they're born. Others will trudge along and will be found out to have a heart disease if they're in the right place and they have the right personnel who have the right equipment. Of course, the other bulk of the illnesses are things you acquire. And the commonest acquired heart disease in our setup is called rheumatic heart disease.
Okay.
Rheumatic heart disease is associated with the bacteria that's called streptococcus, which happens in the throat. And 3 weeks later, you begin to have other issues: the joint, the brain, the heart, the skin. Okay, but it is not really directly an infection of the heart. It's actually an immunological response to the bacteria that affected your throat. Okay, so it's a complex disease. It's not a direct infection. The streptococcus
I'd like you to repeat that because you have a problem with your throat.
And then your heart gets affected.
And then your heart gets affected.
Yes.
The relationship between this bacteria,
yes,
the strep,
yes,
and I'm not going to complete that name. Let's leave it with strep. And
Streptococcus.
yes, and how that relates to a process where now it's your skin,
right?
It is other parts of your body,
yes,
and then your heart.
Yes. I will just now delve you into a quick lesson in immunology.
Okay.
Now, immunology is basically the way your body responds to offending agents, right? In this particular situation, a bacteria. Your body produces antibodies which go to attack. They are scaries that go to attack that particular offending organism, right? These particular cells that go to attack recognize certain patterns of proteins on that particular bacteria. Unfortunately, sometimes it may mistake some of your tissues with the same proteins that are found in the bacteria. So it attacks your body, right? So it's a self-attack on tissues that resemble the bacteria. So it's a little bit complicated. It's an immune response. That's why there's a lag phase between when you get your bacterial infection in the throat and when you get a manifestation of what we call acute rheumatic fever. And we say it affects the joints. You get joint aches and so on, the large joints, and these joints move in sequence. It begins probably with the shoulder, goes to the elbow, goes to the wrist, goes to the hip. It's migratory joint pain. The other area that is affected but doesn't leave a permanent damage is transient. The other areas that are affected are the skin. You get a rash, a red rash on the skin. It's a little difficult to see in people of my kind of color. It's evanescent. It means it comes and goes quickly, right? The other area that is affected is the brain, your sort of cerebellum, where you find a child 3 weeks later is behaving unusually. A child who was writing very well begins to write like in hieroglyphics or something, you know, they're having all these sorts of movements and so on, or shaking or having all sorts of funny movements, right? It is really the effects of that response in the brain. But most importantly is the effect it has on the heart. It sort of causes inflammation of your heart tissues, all the heart tissues. The pericardium, which is the outer layer, the myocardium, which is the muscle, and the endocardium, which is the inner layer. So all the three layers of the heart are affected. They are red like this bottle of yogurt.
I'll tell you about that later. Don't worry. Just, you can use it as reference.
Yes.
But
They're as red as that. They're red, they're swollen, they're oozy. And your heart as a function, as a pump doesn't work as well. Importantly is the inner tissues of the heart, which makes up your valves. And the valves are basically just that, just like the bicycle valve. They allow blood to get in and out, in and out. They get to swell. They don't move as well. They don't open or shut as well. So you get a leaky valve. If that is severe, that child may just die within the acute phase of that illness. Many of those will trudge along and will just they'll not die, but they are not functioning well. They can't run, they can't play, and so on. The heart gets larger and larger and larger, and they get other complications. They may not live their full lives. A few will have a disease that does not progress, but they live like that all their lives. They are a little bit of weaklings, but they live on.
They get on. Okay.
So those are the That's the rheumatic heart disease spectrum. Yeah.
Does that rheumatic heart disease also affect adults, for example?
That's a very good question. It's actually largely a disease of childhood. It's a disease of childhood. We say 3 years to 6 years. The incidence is highest there. That, like everything in medicine, does not mean because you are 32 you cannot get.
Yeah.
It's just unlikely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So usually, in the delivery room, the baby before that happens, the doctor will say, okay, I'm going to be there, and then we're going to need, a pediatrician in the delivery room. Because, of course, immediately the baby comes out, they want to have a look at the baby and make sure everything is all right. What would you see in that room at that point, or what would you look for? What would you do to ensure that this child then does not have a heart issue? Or are there things that you can see during the pre-birth scans and all of that would say, there's a problem here?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Now, prenatally, or before the baby is born, mothers usually go for antenatal clinics and so on, where they monitor the heart rate of the mother, the fetal heart rate. That's the baby who is unborn. The baby who is unborn is called a fetus. Once they are born, then they're a baby. So you monitor the fetal heart. Usually, the fetal heart rate is higher. Usually about 100 to 160 beats per minute. If your heart beat at 160 beats per minute, in 10 minutes you just collapse.
You're done.
Not survive. Yeah. So usually you will be able to track how the heart is doing and so forth. And that should be fairly easy to pick for anybody, including a midwife. There is usually scans done in pregnancy. And when they do the heart, apart from looking at the various sizes of the head, the limbs, and so on, they look at various structures, including the heart. It's important to understand how the heart develops. The heart develops as one big chamber that over time divides into 4 chambers. 2 pumping chambers, 2 receiving chambers. That means that this is a development that takes place over the pregnancy. So when are you doing the scan? At what point did you see this hole? Is this hole part of the journey of it closing? So it's a very dicey science that one has to take out a judgment call in perspective of the time of the pregnancy. But largely, when you have large defects, let's say the wall between the 2 pumping chambers did not develop at all. You can see the 2 ventricles are just one continuous ventricle instead of having a right and a left. So you would be able to tell gross malformations, right? Minor ones you may not be able to tell. If on the other hand you have blood vessels, and we have 2 large blood vessels that come from the heart, the one that takes blood to the lungs called the pulmonary artery, and the one that takes blood from the heart to the body called the aorta. We know the aorta comes from the left ventricle, the pulmonary artery comes from the right ventricle. Sometimes they are switched around. When they are switched around, then you are in trouble. We have what we call a parallel circulation.
That's a defect now.
That's a defect now, and that may be relatively easy to see. If you are to see that sort of a situation, then you are going to have to be making a decision that this baby, the moment they are delivered, within the next 48 hours, they will have to undergo surgery to correct that. Because those are some of the children that will die soon after birth, if you can't. So you can't do anything about it. So do you have the capacity to do this surgery? It's called a switch operation. You're just basically returning things the way they should. If you're not, then tell this mother we are transporting you to a center that can do this operation.
What is the general, because you're looking at many heart conditions, and I'm thinking about the mother, and I'm thinking about how many Kenyan mothers in the villages, most especially, see the doctor at the point of delivery.
If that.
How would you best advise a listener who's listening to us, who's a mother, she's not done her scans, etc. How would you best advise her to approach her delivery? Because sometimes they have no scans.
The first thing is we're trying to get everyone to deliver in a center where this qualification, right, where you're qualified. I know amongst the urban dwellers, there's this push to deliver at home delivery, because that's what happens in the Netherlands.
Bathtub.
Yes, a bathtub,
Yes.
it's cleaner and so on. That's fine when the ambulance can get to your house in 3 minutes and you have everything at hand. In fact, it's a fully mobile hospital. That's fine. We don't have that situation. Even in relatively good areas in town, vehicle may not be able to get there in time. But importantly, it's really the level of personnel that you have. First thing is to deliver in a place where you have a midwife. A midwife is able to pick out, this is something unusual about this heartbeat. So get somebody else on board. And when that decision, because the decision is made from clinical suspicion, common things occur most commonly. Most babies are born normally, but it is that one baby out of 100 that will give you grief, that will have a problem. So you deliver, I would tell a mother, make sure that you go for your antenatal clinics. If possible, most places now have what we call point of care ultrasound. In other words, it's a device like this that one is able, nurses sometimes are trained to be able to look and say there's something unusual here. If I see something unusual, I'm triggering the system. You need to go to a place where this can be done. And usually when you do that, and it begins from the healthcare personnel saying there is something I'm not too sure about, and there's something I'm not happy about, move to the next center. The next center then will keep on pushing you to the right person. So the first thing, responsibility for the mother, is to make sure you've done at least your 4 clinics, antenatal clinics. If there is a history of a child or a baby born with heart disease, that puts you already in the red. I say there's history in the family. We need to have a high threshold of suspicion. If there is any congenital malformation, let's say, for instance, Down syndrome. Down syndrome is associated with heart diseases. Any chromosomal disorder can be associated with the heart disorder. So things that we call in medicine funny-looking child, funny-looking kid, dysmorphism. That means maybe the low set ears, maybe the eyes are too close, or there is something or other. Then you have to have a high index of suspicion. Could this be a chromosomal disorder, or does this baby look like the grandfather who died like 60 years ago? You know, that's how we explain things sometimes. Even when this gross malformation, you say, you used to have
like somebody who looks like grandfather look like that.
But that, unfortunately, it's really in the domain of health workers to be able to bring themselves up to speed, to be able to advise what you need to do. We get caught up with issues of cost. My work is to tell you what you need to do. If you think about cost, then you will not do anything. You say, I don't know. I don't even know how to get a car to take me to the next hospital. But the moment you let people know, usually people are resourceful. Yes, you asked an important question that I failed to answer. What is it that I see in a baby that has just been born?
Yes.
And I worry. One of those is dysmorphism, funny looking, facies, right? Is this baby syndromic, right? If you have a syndrome, you think about heart disease. Is this baby having blueness? And when you talk about cyanosis or blueness, it's centrally in the tongue. If you are sort of low oxygen tensions, in other words, your mouth is blue, your mucous membranes are blue, then you say, is this baby oxygenating properly? If this baby is breathing quickly and there isn't a clear lung situation that's explaining that, you say, is there something wrong here? If the heartbeat is high, it's higher than normal, or it's irregular, it's not beating in the way you have a high index of suspicion. So you look at telltale things. If your pulse is in the groin, you always feel for the pulses in the groin, in the thighs. If there is a difference between the pulse in the groin and the pulse, the radial pulse, the bigger pulses, then you say, is there something wrong? A condition we call coarctation. Sometimes easily diagnosed with just feeling your pulses. That's how we always feel the groins of the babies and so on. So there are certain telltale things that you can pick out. But it is in the next 24 hours that some of these conditions may come out. Others are obvious, others will develop over time, Others will develop over the next 6 weeks. That's why we generally advise when the baby is born and everything is okay, you go home after the second, third day. We say we like to review you in 2 weeks because certain things may come out. There's a lot of changes that occur when a baby has been born.
This explanation you've given, is this knowledge something that you would only find with people who are medical doctors and cardiologists, or is it something or is this knowledge something you would find with caregivers who are nurses or clinical officers within a setting?
If they went through the system properly, they did not obtain their certificates in dubious places, that should be standard information. Medicine teaches you to recognize what is unusual, what you don't know. Something unusual, call for help. It's a standard way of looking. I mean, I said common things occur most commonly. Most things happen normally. Babies get born in the shamba and mothers go on. But it is that one baby that doesn't conform to that, that you are meant to be thinking about and saving.
Okay. We're discussing matters of the heart on our Healthy Friday conversation today with Dr. Dan Githanga, and we're asking, certain questions and saying, okay, so now, how do we deal, with some of these matters moving forward? What are some things you should watch out for? And then, looking at Kenya as a whole, we'll come into some of those conversations later. CT, remind us again about that email address when we need to find out information about what mortgages we should get.
It is mortgages at dtbafrica.com. That is Diamond Trust Bank. You're looking for a mortgage, you thought it was beyond your reach. Well, a conversation should sort that out, because with a conversation, you'll be able to know what can work and what cannot work.
There you go.
And what fits your means and what doesn't. Yes.
All right. Now, Doc, the lines seem to be falling in such pleasant and agreeable places today, because you pointed to that cup over there. It was red in color, blood, matters of the heart, such. And then it just so happens that this yogurt is the strawberry variety, and the strawberry actually is kind of shaped like a heart. You see where I'm going with this? So we're having those indulging love moments this morning with Delamare yogurt, and it's a time where you can take a break and indulge, and we would like you to indulge in this wonderful cup of strawberry yogurt this morning. It's healthy, it tastes fantastic, and it's got real fruit in it, and it's for you.
Literally.
Literally for you.
Now?
Well,
no,
I mean,
it's yours.
You can take it.
Have no
Take it. Reach forth and go ahead.
It is yours.
It is yours. At whatever time you
when you
choose to
decide to
consume
take a break,
it, you shall have a moment.
There you go. With Delamare yogurt this morning. It is now 28 minutes to 10. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start
Some
your
days
day.
just have you feeling, you know the ones. Very few aha moments. Just moments. Maybe even a few Because how can a day this good feel so meh? But then, you realize your moment of escape is a cup of indulgence away. Delamare.
Get lost in rich, creamy, flavorful bliss with every spoonful of Delamare real fruit yogurt. Indulge in the moment.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi this morning, currently at 17 degrees, and we'll see highs of 30 and lows of 14 in a sunny Nakuru, 16 and sunny into Nyeri this morning. We'll see highs of 27 in a sunny Eldoret. Mombasa at 26 is sunny, while Malindi at 27 is sunny, and Kisumu is sunny at 24. And we'll see sunny conditions through Kakamega, highs of 34 and lows of 17. Kampala's cloudy at 23, while Dar es Salaam at 26 is sunny, and at 21 it's cloudy in Johannesburg. Sunny at 27 in Mogadishu, while at 15 it's sunny in Addis Ababa. Lagos is clear at 27, while Kinshasa at 23 is mostly cloudy. 12 degrees and sunny Friday going into early evening. It's 0 and clear in Paris, while at 2 degrees it's cloudy in London, and it's clear at 1 degree in New York.
Spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
All right, taking a quick look at what's happening with traffic. We're coming out of the hour and hasn't done too badly. We'll see a lot of outbound traffic this Friday. Valentine's Day notwithstanding. A little bit of that movement still on the Thika Superhighway, but it's coming through towards at the Pangani Underpass. And apart from that, most of the city is clear. Where'd everybody go? Well, either way, keep safe, whatever you do this Friday, and we'll talk through it. SpiceFM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
Dr. Dan Githanga is our guest.
David
Githanga is our
My
guest.
My father is Dan, so that's fine.
Oh, so it's okay?
Any name goes.
Like how easy.
It's like I knew that your dad was called Dan. So I was just, transferring. But you're great. Thank you. And somebody just actually texted in and said, I just tuned in to find out that my pediatrician from when I was younger is in the studio. Greetings to him. And his name is Kevin. I don't know. I think you've seen 1,000 young people. So it's not possible for you to know who exactly it is. But you've touched somebody's heart all the same. And so we're looking at... I know.
You're quite poetic today.
I know.
It's flowing.
Something,
it's the red.
Something in the air.
No, it's a flowers.
There's something in there. So looking at these issues and trying to understand really, I mean, from your practice and then being able to say, what's the burden of, this poor heart health that we talk about in Kenya today? And is it being handled to the extent that that it should be to take care of these children? If we're saying that 2 out of 1,000 or 8 out of 1,000, are these numbers in Kenya?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. It's today in Kenyatta Hospital is Fridays when we run the pediatric cardiology clinic. If you go to that clinic, you'll be able to get a snapshot of the numbers. But remember, this is just one hospital. We now have cardiologists across the country, so some are going somewhere else. And those are the ones that have been diagnosed, the ones that have the capacity to be able to come to the hospital, the ones that have the knowledge to come to the hospital. So there are probably others that don't know. They just say this is just a weak child, or this one is a lazy child, and so on. Or this one is just as lazy as a grandfather who was always, we all have certain explanations of certain conditions. So it is a common problem for in pediatrics. Heart diseases. And do we have the capacity to handle? Yes, we do. For instance, let me go very quickly to rheumatic heart disease. It is something that we can prevent, right? We can prevent by making the correct diagnosis of a bacterial infection caused by streptococcus. Not all throat infections are streptococcus. But if you have streptococcus in your throat, strep throat, we must treat you. Because even if it's not going to affect you, you may give it to somebody else, right? So if we take a swab from your throat and cultured and grew it, we will treat you even if you are symptomatic to save not just yourself, but even somebody else. So we can do something about that. When you're diagnosed to have rheumatic heart disease, unfortunately your valves have been affected, then we put you on long-term penicillin treatment to stop a recurrence of that disease. If you get acute rheumatic fever, you can get it again. It means there's something about you that gets your tissues to react that way to the streptococcus. So we protect you by giving you once a month injection.
What happens if you're allergic to penicillin?
Yes, that's a very good question. If you're allergic to penicillin, we have options. Unfortunately, the options we have are not injectable. And we know diseases that don't cause pain. For you to tell people to take medication, including even high blood pressure, it's very difficult. So compliance is usually not so good. We know that as adults, don't we? Yeah. The only time we'll take medicines religiously is if there is pain.
Right.
Pain gets us to take medication. So if you're talking about long-term, 15, 18, 20 years of taking medicines every day, oral medication, it's very hard. You will forget and so on. So in the unfortunate situation you are allergic to penicillin, then we would have to go to option number 2, which has those inconveniences. Fortunately, as you get older, the incidence becomes lesser.
Okay. Just a quick question, Dr. Since you've said that Kenya has the capacity, many people when they hear about heart disease, they immediately go to the extreme of heart transplants and things like that, pacemakers, etc., etc. How available are these solutions in Kenya? I know that's the extreme side of things, but it's a question because organ donation in this country, I don't know how many people have even signed up for such things.
Yes, that is a complex question. Fortunately, it's moving away from pediatrics. Remember, some of the pediatric patients will mature.
Yeah.
Will mature and get older. A child who had rheumatic heart disease at the age of 4 years, they will grow up to be a 25, 26-year-old who is now seen by the adult physicians, adult cardiologists. Do we have the capacity? Yes, we do. We do have the capacity. We do have pacemakers. They're expensive. We can do basically most of the surgery, apart from the early neonatal surgery. Some of the complex surgeries, we may not have the abilities to do it locally, mainly because of the complexity of the issues and our abilities to handle 2.53 kilogram babies when they have complex abnormalities. Therefore, our roles are to make a diagnosis, make a quick decision. Does this child need surgery? Do they need palliative surgery? And palliative surgery means stopgap, waiting to do the corrective total repair later. Can that total repair be done here, or will they have to go overseas? Some of the very, very complex disorders, even in those developed countries, are only done in certain centers. So it's not just a question of you flying into a capital of the world and say this is the many skyscrapers. It's who is there. How many do they do? Do they have the capacity? Do they have the necessary infrastructure, the nursing care, NIZISI and so on, to handle this kind of surgeries? Fortunately, in cardiology, we're all interconnected and we know who to take where and so forth. So do we have the capacity? Yes, we do. But the first step is always high index of suspicion, diagnosis, accurate diagnosis, and efficient referral. Cost is still a major issue.
Yes.
Cost is a major issue, and I do not have the solutions. I wish I did, but when the predecessor of Shah was working, it was able to lift quite a bit of that.
Yeah.
And I would want to say very quickly that a lot of heart conditions are amenable to surgery. Especially when they are structural, they are amenable to surgery. And you basically get operated. You have a hole in the heart, it gets sealed. You are brand new.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask actually, because it seems like, I mean, it's so delicate, right? This heart, it's so delicate, and then you're going to have to go in there and tinker with the thing, and just try and put it back together. But then it's central to operations for you physiologically. So then, what then is your quality of life after? I mean, you're talking about a baby, so they've not had too much time on earth, and you're newborn, right? But then if you do it later, there's really no quality of life to compare with before, because you had the condition. But if you do it later as a child, if you can for however long you can stay, what quality of life are you guaranteed after the surgery?
Let me just first of all explain that a lot of heart conditions, structural heart conditions, are a spectrum of conditions. You can talk about a hole in the heart. Some holes are small, some are medium, some are very large. Some are so large that effectively there is no division between the two chambers. Those are still called VSDs, but they are actually very, very different versions of VSDs, ventricular septal defect, hole in the heart. Right? When you have a small hole in the heart, some are so small, they never make any difference to your life. You live a completely normal life. You'll actually be diagnosed accidentally when you're going for your employment check or insurance check and so forth. Others are so severe that they'll be diagnosed fairly early. So there are some conditions for which you need early surgery. There are conditions for which you can wait. Those that you can wait, you wait. It's about timing of the surgery. There are conditions for which, if you do not get an operation within probably the first week of life, you will not make it, right? It is the timing of the surgery, the expertise of the center, and your abilities to manage those things efficiently. And I'm not talking about cost. I'm just talking about competence.
Right.
Right. So if you have a hole in the heart, and even if it is large and it's repaired, you basically are normal. You'll die from another condition, not the heart.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So another one, that if there is what they're calling an extra heartbeat.
Yes.
I believe there's a medical term for it, but you hear that there's something subtle under there.
Yes.
What is that? And is that cause for concern?
Yes. It is, yes. Our heart beats regularly. Loop-doop, 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 loop-doop. Sometimes you're a little excited. You've had a cup of coffee, or it's Valentine, and so on, or you have seen flowers, which are made in very interesting way. I've been looking at them. You get an extra heartbeat. So it's not always an unusual situation or a disease condition. But when it is persistent or repetitive, or you have certain rhythm that is persistent, repetitive, then you want to be able to do simple tests to find out, is this one of those unusual situations? Your heart rate changes even with your breathing, right? Even with your breathing, the rate does change. And we call that a physiologic change. But you want to, if you feel your pulse, it's irregular, has that irregular nature got a pattern to it? Is it repeated at certain times? Does it disappear when I get you to exercise, for instance? Then you use that as your entry level to say we need a little bit more evaluation.
Right.
So a skipped beat doesn't necessarily mean that you.
And so I could see CT and my heart was skip beating, but okay.
You're just excited.
Right.
You're just excited.
Okay.
You're just falling.
Right.
The three of you, are you aware that I actually am in this room?
You know, you being here does not preclude us from saying what we want.
Okay.
This is what happens when you teach people more than one language.
So let me ask you another question that's coming from a listener this morning. Is that so? How does one know that they have an inflamed heart muscle, and what are the causes and possible treatment or management?
Inflamed heart. Wow. Inflamed heart means it's inflamed, means it's red, it's swollen, it's oozy. What is causing the inflammation? What is causing the inflammation? And if you're going to say that it is the muscle layer of the heart, it's called the myocardium, myocarditis, it's inflamed. What is causing it? There is definitely a problem. If your heart muscle is red, swollen, it will not be working well the way it should. So it's a serious condition. If you are going to say you have myocarditis, is it viral myocarditis? Is it something that is transient that will get better, or is it something that we need to look out for? Some of the viruses cause inflammation of the heart, and they leave you, if you survive that period, they leave you with a flabby heart, right? It doesn't work as well. It's lost its contractility, its abilities to pump. Right, you get what we call a cardiomyopathy. Cardiomyopathy means that it's not working well. It's becoming like a bag of fluid that doesn't work well. So those are some of the patients that will survive with difficulties. Those are some of the patients that may require heart transplant, which was asked. A question that was asked by Mark. Heart transplants can be done. But a heart transplant is not an everyday procedure. First of all, unlike a kidney, where we have two, we can donate, you only have one heart. So by the time that you're donating your heart, it means that you probably died violently of an accident. You're in the right center. You are within a certain space of time where that heart is going to be removed, harvested, to the person who is requiring it, who requires to be ready. It means the two of you, or the matching of the patient waiting for the heart transplant, will have to match this particular one. So the abilities of testing that heart has just been harvested, matching with the other one. So it's a very dicey, narrow window, narrow opportunity sort of a situation, not something that is done every day.
You know, I'm interested.
Yes.
I'm interested in this. You mentioned the word transplant.
Yes.
Since we're talking heart.
Yes.
Do we witness many situations where children actually undergo a heart transplant?
Yes, but not in this country yet. not in this country.
Okay, that's question number one. Yes. There's always a preventative aspect of healthcare. Now, when you work or you specialize in an area such as yours, because the mention of the heart sends trepidation. The mention of the heart not doing what it's supposed to do signals a journey that you'd rather perhaps not make now. What is it that people with your level of expertise tell parents, mothers, parents of young children, wannabe parents, to do so that they can prevent conditions such as the one that you end up treating? That is, if they can be prevented.
It's a very difficult question to answer in one sentence. But generally, children are meant to be cared for in total. Whether it's about their nutrition, whether it's about the behaviors they engage in. And by the way, nutrition is very, very important. Today, other cardiologists tell us that we are creating patients for them when we allow them to have certain dietary habits over a long period of time, right? Unhealthy foods and so on, sugars especially. Those are being queued up for diabetes, hypertension, and so on because of the high salt intake, fast foods, and so forth. This, you do not grow up healthy, and then you end up with the condition, but into your adulthood. But they are saying that this begins quite early. That's why feeding habits in the home are important, because you become what you eat over a period of time, and those habits are difficult to change when you get older. So there are things that relate to proper care of a child as they grow up. Do they exercise? Do they run? I mean, we are in serious danger of people now spending all their time just on gadgets and so on. They lose their abilities to communicate, and they lose their abilities to play and exercise and, get that kind of a lifestyle. They want to sit in front of a large TV screen, and that will definitely predispose them to the NCDs that Ndu mentioned about a little bit earlier. So as a pediatrician, I say, let the child move, let them go and play and so on, let them eat right and so forth. Let them have a regular review. We want to see children up to the age of 5. How are they growing? How are they developing? To be able to detect the subtle things, neurodevelopmental things. Heart conditions that are severe are relatively easy to pick.
Okay.
Right? They are relatively easy to pick.
So then on that note then, Doc, there's another question here, and that, it's, I think, pointing to that we sometimes sit with symptoms, scarily even with children, and that a child who breathes pretty heavily and that will run for some time and then get very tired very quickly. Taken him to hospital twice, but they say that it's something that he will grow out of. But sometimes he is uncomfortable, and I'm not quite sure what to do.
Yeah, when you get, we call it shortness of breath.
He's 6, by the way,
Shortness of breath. We can get short of breath because of purely being unfit. I climbed up the stairs, I'm a little breathless. You're not necessarily, it's not a heart condition, it's just that's why moving and so forth. Yes, so fitness. Then what level of exercise gets you to become breathless?
Out of breath.
If many of us are asked to do a 200-meter dash around the field
today, okay.
Yes, many of us will be breathless. That doesn't mean you have a heart condition. It just means that we are not fit. The other major areas where children will get short of breath is exercise-induced asthma. Asthma is a condition that is, people fear asthma. But I like to joke that your airways by their very nature are asthmatic, right? Your airways, if they're irritated,
they constrict.
That's your natural reaction. Your gut does the same too. So when they constrict, you tend to cough to open them out, right? So people who are allergic and so on will have a little bit more of that. So there are subset of patients that will have exercise-induced asthma. The moment they begin to run, they begin to cough, right? Because the exercise induces bronchospasm. That means closure of the airway. So very often that can contribute. But many times it's just fitness and so on. The very fact that you think about the heart condition sometimes causes a lot more anxiety than it needs to be. Last week I saw a child whose mother was very distraught because they had gotten an x-ray for a particular condition. They are told your baby has a heart condition and needs to be admitted now. I mean, there was an emergency created round about what I call non-issue. But and that depends on how that message is delivered. And when people hear a heart thing, they think of a heart attack. Heart attacks are largely things of us adults or people who have certain conditions. Children rarely get heart attacks, right? It's coronary artery disease is an acquired heart condition for adults. Children don't get that. And yet when we hear about the heart, you think about sudden death. For us, yes. For males, yes, more than for the females, right? Yes. When you're male, you're more prone to that sort of a situation.
Can you give the males some good news? But that is good news.
That you'd suddenly die.
Yes.
So be careful.
That you'd suddenly get a heart attack.
Let me just shock the two males in the room.
Oh, here we go.
All our lives, boys or the boy child has a higher risk, whether it's behavioral or even disease conditions, right? You are likely to engage in sporting activity that's risky, ride bikes and so on. That's risky, even as a little boy. And when it comes to heart conditions, yes, they are more likely to get, by male gender only, you are more prone to getting heart attacks than female. And I must add a little joke here that once the girls also become males, in other words, when they get to menopausal age, they now have the same risk.
I've never heard that in my life.
You didn't know you were going to become male until the 14th of February 2025.
The advantage of the estrogen.
Right.
Estrogen
Okay.
to protect them. Yes,
to become male.
Yes.
So you also get prone. Yeah, of course.
Yes.
So there's something that I heard about muscle wall thickening.
Yes.
Due to high blood pressure and things like that, and there are a few people, especially as they get older, will go through that. Could you just explain that a bit more?
Yeah, the heart is a muscle, pretty much like people going to the gym and so on, pumping iron. That's what I hear them calling real muscle.
Yes.
The heart too does behave like that. If the heart has to work hard because of increased resistance upstream, right? The heart has to pump across vessels that are narrow. Then, of necessity, the heart walls will become thicker, right? It's called hypertrophic. Hypertrophy just means thickening of the walls. You get that, and that is a secondary effect of the high blood pressure. It's a lot more complex, but of course you can have certain heart diseases that you're born with. Cardiomyopathies, where you have hypertrophic heart disease. The heart muscle is very, very, very thick. If your heart muscle is very, very thick, it means that your cavity it's smaller. You do not fill up as well because this muscle is too thick. Your heart needs to open up, fill up, get blood, pump out. But if it is too thick, then you have a problem of being able to pump, to deliver blood when the heart is pumping out. Then number two, the supply of blood to the heart muscle itself is compromised, and that's how you get what you call your angina, the pain in the heart, because of the insufficient blood supply to the heart. So if you have hypertrophied ventricles, then we are saying, why do you have hypertrophied ventricles? You have to look for the conditions and manage them.
So it's not heartbreak.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so if in case you haven't noticed, Mark is a bit worried about heartbreak today. So maybe we can actually just do that real quick, because folks have been saying, is there actually a physical condition that can be likened to heartbreak, that literally your heart has fallen apart?
Physical condition. I guess you can get a catastrophic situation that your heart behaves in a particular way and you can get an arrest. If you have what we call a vasovagal attack, you sort of stimulate the vagus, you can get into sort of the heart stopping, right? It's called a bradycardia or low heart rate because of certain stimulation of the vagus nerve. That can happen. But generally, it is not in the ordinary sense of conversation. You have a heartbreak, the heart has broken. No.
Yeah.
David,
yes.
When you are upset
yes.
and you feel a pain somewhere where the heart is supposed to be,
yes.
what on earth is that pain?
You need prayer.
Because I've felt that pain.
Amen. I think it's prayer.
Exactly. And I think that's a great place to end on today. Thank you
Suspense.
so much for talking matters of the heart with us this morning, Dr. David Githanga, on this Valentine's Day. Matters of the heart, important matters. Consultant pediatrician cardiologist, thank you so much. Pediatric cardiologist, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. And just remember, as your businesses flourish, one thing that you need to remember is that Verto FX has the answers for you. www.vertofx.com, and you can get all this information about how you can make payments as a small, medium, large enterprise business, and you can avoid all those high transactional charges, avoid the long downtime, avoid the hidden charges, and make payments from your business to another, and make sure that your business is smooth and seamless. It's vertofx.com. Good morning. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll talk again Monday morning, God willing. Good morning. It's 10 a.m.